All right, good afternoon. This is the April 5th, 2022 meeting of the Landmark Preservation Commission. It's 1 o'clock and I'll call this meeting to order. Let's start with introductions of the commissioners. I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kelly Wemple. I'm an architect and I was nominated by the American Institute of Architects. Next up, we've got George.
Hi, I'm George Dennis, owner and curator of a historic home in Park Hill, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
Great. Aaron.
Hi, I'm Erin Hummel. I'm a landscape architect, and I was nominated by the American Society of Landscape Architects.
Graham.
I'm Graham Johnson, Preservation Project Manager and General Contractor, nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
Julie.
Hi, I'm Julie Johnson. I'm a Historic Preservation Project Manager, and I was nominated by the community at large.
Gary.
Hello, I'm Gary Petrie. I'm an architect, and I was nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
Erica.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Erica Warzel. I'm an architectural historian and preservation consultant, and I was nominated by the community at large.
Great. And Anne, you joined us just in time to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ann Wattenberg. I'm an architect nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
Thank you. And Jen, can you introduce yourself as well?
Sure, I'm Jen Capetto. I'm landmark preservation staff.
Great. All right. Let's see. We have one meeting record up for approval today. It's the March 15th meeting record. Did everyone get a chance to review that? Have any comments? And if not, would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, this is Julie. I move to approve the March 15th minutes as presented.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Gary. All right, and I will call for the vote. George.
Aye.
Aaron.
Abstain.
Graham.
I will abstain also.
Julie.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Hi.
Anne. You're on mute, Anne.
Aye.
Thank you. And Kelly, aye. All right, so we have 2 abstentions, but we had 6 people in favor. So the motion passes and the meeting minutes are approved. Okay, so at the beginning of every Landmark Preservation Commission meeting, we leave some time for public comments. This is not for any particular project that's on design review agenda today. We'll have separate public comment periods during those agenda items, but if you have any preservation matters in general that you'd like to comment on, now's the time to do it. So if you're joining us by phone, please dial *9. That's gonna raise your hand. And if you're joining us via computer, use the hand raise button at this time.
Great, and we have 3 people who have raised their hand. Again, these are not for a specific project. This is about preservation in general. So the first person has had their hand up for a while. That's and they're put it down. So the first person is James Leduc, and let me unmute you so you can unmute yourself when you're ready.
Yeah, and if you could start with your name and address for the record, you'll have up to 2 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is James Leduc. I live at 775 Olive Street. All right, general comments. One of the main purposes of historic preservation is to bring back the streetscape to what it was during the period of significance. Now, that can be difficult sometimes. Obviously, period of significance changes. There's guidelines put in place that have been adopted to navigate what it looks like within each district. Both staff and commissioners are tasked with being the oversight and review, and that could be a very difficult task. I commend you for your efforts and what you're doing. Each district is different, and being that each district is different, character defining features that could vary from one block to the next, there's a need to take a deeper dive into each district specific historic fabric for the purpose of preserving that historic fabric. There are districts that will suffer more than others if these character defining features are diluted. Now, the question I have, and you don't have to answer it, but I at some point want to learn from you guys. What is the process for determining the order of which the districts undergo this deeper dive in defining the character defining features of that particular district? Thank you.
Thanks.
For that. It's been a while since we've touched the drafts that we have for character defining features, but we anticipate doing so in the next, well, I keep saying in the next year,
Yeah,
and
next year,
I
right.
apologize that it's just it's a lot going on. So, but it is a priority. I know that you are from the Montclair Historic District, and so it is a priority of us to get some of these districts done that have a lot of applications in them. It's really application volume that kind of dictates what's the next one to go. So I hope that helps.
All right. Did we have another public comment?
Nope, it looks like they lowered their hand as well.
Okay. Great. So good comment. James, thanks for your time. So the next thing on our agenda today is the consent agenda items. So let's see, we had 6 items, but one of them was removed from the agenda. That was the one on Mariposa. So now we've got 5 on consent up for approval today. Were there any questions for staff on these?
Kelly, I'm just going to mention I need to recuse myself from the vote here just because of involvement with one of the projects, but otherwise no questions.
Okay, thanks, Graham. So Graham will recuse himself from the vote. If there were no other questions. Oh,
I'm on mute. Since Graham, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you need to recuse yourself for the first item on design review. Is that correct?
you're on mute, Graham.
Sorry about that. It's only been 2 years we've all been on mute, right? You're correct, Jen. I've got that one as well. So if it makes sense to, I guess, bump me out for a little while, I'll jump back in after.
Yeah, so I'll, for the people on the call, I'm moving him to attendee. He can see and listen, but we cannot see him and we cannot hear him, so he can't influence the vote. So I'm going to do that right now.
Thanks.
Great. All right, well, they're moving Graham over to attendee status. If there aren't any questions for staff, would someone like to make a motion on the consent agenda?
I can make a motion.
Okay, thanks, Erica.
I move to approve all of the items on the consent agenda, namely project 2022-COA-122 at 3215 East 7th Avenue Parkway, 2022-COA-127 at 2601 Walnut Street, 2021-COA-149 at 3053 Stout Street, 2022-COA-141 at 1460 Larimer Street, the Granite Building, and 2022-COA-142 at 416 East 7th Avenue.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll
Madam
second.
Chair, this is Julie. I'll second it.
I think Erin already beat you to it, Julie. So
All
thank
right.
you. Thank you, Erin. I'll call for the vote. George.
Aye.
Erin.
Aye.
Graham has recused himself. So Julie,
Aye.
Gary,
Aye.
Erica,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
and Kelly, aye. All right, so we have a unanimous vote and the motion passes. So we will move on to the design review agenda today. So the design review process is up on the screen. Oh,
Before you say that, could you release people?
oh, that's right. If anyone is on the line for one of the consent agenda projects, your project has been approved, and feel free to hop off the call if you'd like. Thanks, Jen. Forgot about that today. So the design review process is up on the screen right now. So I'll go ahead and announce the design review item, and then staff will introduce the application and provide their recommendation, after which we'll hear from the applicant. The applicant has up to 10 minutes to use their time to tell us whatever they like, and then we'll open it up for public comments. So public comment periods are 2 minutes per person, and it works the same way as that general public comment period. So if you have a comment at the time that we announce it, you'll just need to use the hand raise button or dial *9 if you're joining us by phone. After public comments, the commissioners will move into deliberation and we'll make a motion. All right, so the first project up for design review today is 2022-COA-122, and that's at 3215 East 7th Avenue. Oh, whoops, I just announced the consent agenda item. Never mind, that's not what we're looking at, wrong one. We're instead going to review 2022-COA-136 at 1101 Oneida Street.
So our first application for review today is in the Montclair Historic District. This is for a corner property located at the corner of 11th Avenue and Oneida Street with the primary frontage along Oneida Street. I have checked with the residential review team who also reviews zoning for this property, and the residential review supervisor has confirmed to me that Oneida is considered the primary street for this property, and East 11th Avenue is considered the secondary street. The Montclair Historic District is a very tall historic district. It runs from 7th Avenue up to 12th, primarily along Oneida Street and Olive Street. The district's period of significance is prior to and including 1940, and this structure is considered a contributing structure within the district. You can see the district boundary here in this aerial image that shows the property. Everything to the west of this property is outside of the Montclair Historic District. Everything to the north, south, and east of this property is within the Montclair Historic District. So the applicant is requesting approval for a new detached garage on the southwest side of the site. The commission previously approved a garage on the north side of the site and chose to conditionally approve that application with the removal of the garage from the submittal, the pool, and the pool from the submittal. So those project scopes are back before the commission today. However, the garage has moved to the southwest side of the site. So you can see that this garage structure will use an existing curb cut off of East 11th Avenue, and the garage doors will face east and be accessed from that existing drive aisle and curb cut. There is currently a parking pad in about the location that the new garage will be located. The new garage will be separated from the existing garage, which the commission did consider an important contributing element to the design of this home by separation of 18 feet. It will be a 3-car garage. However, the third bay will be inset on the east elevation minimally, just to provide some massing relief for that structure. So here is again, the proposed garage. It is inset from the side street, 7 feet 5 inches. Per the Denver zoning code, the side street setback requirement for this neighborhood is 5 feet. So I did put up the Denver zoning code there for your consideration, but this is just a zoomed in image of the proposed garage. So again, the proposed garage is going to use an existing curb cut and drive aisle off of East 11th Avenue. You can see the general placement on the site, and then that inset third bay that will be used to accommodate a trailer. It's not a full bay. You could not park a car or perhaps a small car in that third bay, but the primary garage vehicle bays will be the two that are sticking out a little bit further. This garage is measuring 32.5 feet by 22 feet. The short side is along East 11th Avenue, and that is to align best with the historic existing garage that is on the site and to provide as many views into the property as possible and not block views of the historic home in any way. And then the 32.5 feet is along the north-south axis. This proposed garage is 12 feet in height. So here is the proposed elevations of the garage. This is the south elevation that fronts onto East 11th Avenue. It will have a window on this facade with simulated divided light windows to match the windows elsewhere on the structure, principally the mudroom and the existing garage that has divided light windows. This garage structure is 12 feet in height and will have a flat roof. And beyond the mission style parapet, highly decorative parapet roof of the original garage will be visible. So that's what you're seeing in the background there. The three garage doors will face onto the east elevation of Oneida Street. However, as this garage is so set back on this property, it will be very difficult to see from Oneida Street. So here you have two views of, generally speaking, where the garage will be placed. Again, there is kind of a existing parking pad area where that garage will be placed. So you can see in that upper view that the tree will remain and is shown in the drawings below. And then there are several trees on the property that will somewhat block the views of the garage from Oneida Street. So this garage is overall simple in design, has a simple flat roof. The existing garage structure also has a flat roof, but it has a more decorative building parapet that relates to the mission style architecture of the home. Our design guidelines do recommend that garages be a simplified interpretation of the primary structure and the surrounding historic context. So the applicant has chosen a flat roof for this proposal to allow the mission style revival roof of the existing garage to remain visible and to relate to the roof style of the existing accessory structure on this site. Previously, the applicant had proposed a hip roof, but that would add additional height to the site, and the applicant does want to keep as much of the existing garage visible as possible. So here are just the other elevations, the west and north elevation. The north elevation faces the interior property line, and the west elevation faces onto the adjacent property, which is outside of the historic context. Again, just a door on this the north elevation, allowing access onto the property, and then a window on the west elevation. Again, very simple in design, simple flat roof with that transition to that smaller bay on the north side of the garage. The applicant is also proposing new fencing on the property. The existing iron fencing on the north side of the property is shown to remain on this elevation plan. Additionally, a new privacy fence, a 6-foot wood privacy fence, will be added to the north side of the property. Staff are recommending that fence be set back 1 foot from the primary facade, as our design guidelines do recommend a setback of 1 foot from the facade. It is separated from the facade by an existing patio. However, we do feel that it'd be more appropriate and more consistent with our design guidelines to be set back 1 foot from the facade on the north side of the property. On the south side of the property, at the March 1st meeting, the commission generally approved the location of the privacy fencing. However, the applicant has made minor adjustments to the fencing on the south side of the property. So previously, the fencing on the south side of the property came off of the historic mudroom. That fencing has been relocated minimally per commission comments to be between the windows that are on the facade of the south of the building towards the rear. Per zoning, any fencing not forward of the front facade of the primary street facing facade may be 6 feet in height. So both the fencing on the north and south side of the property do count as rear yard fencing and is allowed to be 6 feet in height per privacy fencing standards. Within the Montclair Historic District, there may be other structures that have 2 primary frontages that require 4-foot fencing. However, this property has been confirmed to have primary frontage on Oneida Street and secondary frontage on East 11th Avenue. Additionally, within the Montclair Historic District, while most fencing is of a low open nature, there are several homes within the district that do have privacy fencing. So I have just done a general Google Street View to show you kind of that privacy fencing condition that is present within the district, particularly for corner houses. So it's not uncommon for corner houses to have privacy fencing along the side street in the rear yard, similar to 755 Oneida Street, 1001 Oneida Street. 6840 East Richtenhoff Place has a brick site wall that appears to be taller than 6 feet in some locations that wraps the corner. And then 778 Oneida Street is a mid-block property, but it does have privacy fencing that fronts onto Oneida Street and is visible from Oneida Street. Again, here are some more privacy fencing conditions on contributing buildings within the Montclair Historic District. 1005 Olive Street, 754 Olive Street, and 956 Olive Street are all corner properties with rear yard, side yard privacy fencing. And then 920 Olive Street is a contributing mid-block structure with privacy fencing that fronts onto Olive Street. So privacy fencing is typical in rear yards when they are located in the rear yard for this district. So generally speaking, staff feel that this project proposal does meet the design standards and guidelines for the Montclair Historic District in terms of placement of the garage and the placement of the fencing. The applicant has demolished the historic catwalk and railing that the commission did decide was an important contributing feature of this property. That element was removed because it was rotted wood. The plans are showing that this element will be reconstructed. However, staff are requesting detailed elevations of that element to ensure that it's reconstructed per its historical condition. So that is another condition that we have added to the staff report. So generally speaking, we are recommending approval of this project proposal as we feel that it is contextual to the historic context. And per our design guidelines, the historic context is defined as the historic district. So we did not consider the properties to the west of this as part of the historic context, as they were not included in the district designation boundary. So we only considered the garage's impact on the surrounding historic Montclair context and find that is appropriate for the surrounding historic Montclair context, and are recommending conditional approval with the condition that detailed drawings of the pergola catwalk structure be provided to ensure the reconstruction is done appropriately. Set the north fencing back 1 foot from the front facade. All simulated divided lights on the garage have a spacer bar, and note all materials on plan and not just on the application form. So the garage will be 3-coat stucco and the windows will be aluminum clad wood windows, and that's all noted on the application form, but it needs to be noted on the plans, as the plans are used in the field by the inspector to ensure the project is constructed per the landmark approval.
Great, thank you, Brittany. Are there any questions for staff? Nope. All right, is the applicant present? Could we transfer them over?
Emily's working on that.
Yeah, but just a sec.
No problem. And while the applicant's being transferred over, Brittany, you did send us public comments yesterday. So we all have comments from the Historic Montclair Community Association, and then all of those that wrote and sent in comments prior to the meeting.
And I guess really quickly, I didn't mention the pool, but generally speaking, pools are reviewed administratively by staff. We only review the raised elements of in-ground pools, so that would be like the site paver elements. We also find the pool appropriate as it is not visible from the public right-of-way, as it will be screened with the proposed privacy fencing. And it's a concrete paver that will be used, which is similar to other site materials on this property as well.
Great, thanks, Brittany. Did we get the applicant?
It looks like they
Over.
both have their hand raised. I'm not able to move them. Jen,
Let me try.
yeah.
My mouse, there it is. I can't, let's see, promote to panelist. Promote to panelist, let's see what happens. And there goes Stephen, and there goes.
Great. All right, you can go ahead and
Yes,
unmute
Patrick.
yourself when you're ready. Start with your name and address for the record, and you have up to 10 minutes.
It looks like
Great.
Stephen.
Hello, can
Yeah.
you hear me okay?
Yep.
Hello, can you hear me? Great.
Mhm.
Thank you. My name is Stephen Barsh with Barsh Design. I'm at 703 West 6th Avenue, Denver 80204. Thank you very much for today. And Brittany, thank you very much for that presentation. It's very thorough. We've been working on this project for nearly a year. I've been working really closely with Patrick and Diana. We've explored this garage in many different ways, including, adding something on to the existing structure, which seemed to be very in violation of the whole historic nature of both the house and the garage hooked together by the pergola. We presented the detached garage off of Oneida, off that existing curb cut, and then really felt the neighborhood objection to that during the last hearing, which we weren't really that aware of. We've worked really hard and diligently to redesign this per the neighborhood suggestion and through the board's suggestion to put this on 11th Avenue. In doing so, we wanted to pay attention to, the trees that were on the site, the existing garage, its location. There's a lot of grade change off of 11th. 11th is busy. There's a Montclair Elementary is right there. All the pickup school children, the pickup line is along 11th and along Newport there. So it's very busy. And we first considered, putting the garage doors directly on 11th, and felt like that steep incline of a short drive. The driveway would have to be at least 20 feet long past the sidewalk so that cars weren't blocking the sidewalk. And then that would push the garage close up near the existing garage and put it much higher on the low in the corner, separated from the existing house so that we could maintain that view of the existing house, pergola, and garage. We've gone around a lot about the necessity of the third bay on the garage for the trailers and the canoes. And so the family has a lot of activities. That's why they want to preserve the backyard and the pool. And so the 3-car was necessity, but I've really struggled hard to make that feel like a 2-car with an added bay, with a downsized garage door, lower roof height. In general, keeping a very simple parapet wall as low as possible, adjacent to the taller 16-foot decorative wall of the existing garage. Furthermore, I really wanted to keep the curb cut because it preserves the pine tree in the front, which will help to obscure the new garage, as well as the large deciduous tree on the south. We want to still be able to access the existing garage, that door. They're going to use that for some storage, and a little courtyard for the kids. That's also provides the separation of the two structures. And so we really wanted to use the existing curb cut and that whole kind of gravel parking area. And so that rather than cars being parked out there, they could be inside this garage. Therefore, I've located it, the setback for the garage is 5 feet, the side setback 7.5, but we've actually placed this garage 12 feet off of the property line. So it's about 17 feet off the sidewalk, and kept it as minimal in terms of its depth at 22 feet. They have a large truck to pull the trailers. So it's a relatively tight garage. Try to keep it as minimal as possible. for the size, and then articulate the individual doors to further kind of decrease the mass. Wanted to put those doors on the east side so that it created somewhat of a drive court with the existing gravel drive there, so that we didn't have garage doors facing 11th as, you know, garage architecture, but more of a court that might include that other garage door of the existing garage as well. It has the rear setback per zoning. We've worked really hard with zoning to make sure that we're adhering to this side setback at 11th as far as it not being a primary setback. And this is really in response to the neighbors, which we've met with and really try to take all their feedback into consideration. I'll let Patrick talk about a few things here. He's the owner, Patrick and Diana, who've been working hard on this. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Brittany, and thank you to the commission for taking the time to review this project. We really appreciate your thoughtful consideration. As Steve said, we've really taken a lot of time and energy to review all the different options of how to both orient the garage and place it on the property so that it does not impact the overall historic nature of the property, and really, but also helps us, you know, provide what a modern family needs, which is storage space for kids' bikes and their canoe and tents and all the things that we like to do. So we had reached out to the Montclair Historic District several times. We're finally able to meet with them this morning, and we appreciate that. But I just wanted to address a couple of things that they included in their letter, which was, first of all, they said they were pleased with the placement at the where it is in the back of the lot on the southwest side. So that's wonderful. We're glad we're in agreement there. They were wondering if the garage could instead face, be oriented to face 11th as opposed to facing Oneida, and be tandem in nature. However, that would require chopping down that beautiful tree that you can see in this photo here. It's a huge old evergreen tree, and furthermore would require a ton of paving over the existing landscaping to make the former garage accessible. So for us, that was really a much more impactful way to manage the site plan. We really felt that the way we have it planned and oriented would be the most minimal impact on the site and provide the most functionality for a family and use of the space. Let's see. We also wanted to address some of the other objections that had come through. The neighbor to the back was worried about increased traffic, which that driveway has been there for the life of the house. So there aren't going to be any more cars coming in and out of it than there were any other years that the house has been in existence. So I don't think that that is a big point to consider. We also want to address the fact that there are a variety of garages in Montclair. Some are 1 car, some are 2 cars, some are 3 car. There's a lovely 3-car garage at 9th and Oneida in a historic Victorian house just down the road. So there's every size and shape of garage in the neighborhood. Some have sloped roofs, some have flat roofs. So really, in consideration that there's no, one way to have a garage in this neighborhood, there's really a variety of things that are present already. Let's see, what else did we want to, the way the garage is placed, I don't think would impact the site view of the house behind us to the west, nor would any structural damage occur to their steps, as they mentioned in their letter as a concern. So we just wanted to address that. I don't foresee that being an issue. Let's see, anything else that you want to add?
No, I would just like to, we met with the neighbors this morning, and I personally have spoken with the neighbors to the north, the neighbors to the south, and the neighbors to the east, and have their support. I hope that some of them will be joining on this call, but neighbors that were once opposed based on the previous location to the north are now in support. And so although we may never get the support of all of our neighbors, there's a lot of not in my backyard kind of opinions from the neighborhood that we've received. We do have the support of the majority of our neighbors, and we're thankful for that. So, we have exceeded the setbacks of the garage as 11th is a secondary street. in consideration of the neighbors. So where the garage could be much closer to the neighbors and much closer to 11th, but we want to make sure the view of the old garage is kept as well. And so we are doing everything that we know how to do to be good neighbors. And although we don't have the support of all the neighbors, I believe we have the great support of a lot of the neighbors. So yeah, and I think just in closing, Oneida, this neighborhood, this historic neighborhood is very diverse. There's some large houses, many smaller infill homes, many different types of garages, 1, 2, 3-car garages with sloped and non-sloped roofs. And so we feel that we have done our best job in order to fit this garage into the context of the neighborhood. And we look forward to its approval. And I would encourage anyone with questions to make sure that we get all of the questions answered, because I know there were a lot of questions last time. So please, yeah, feel free to reach out. We're here to answer questions, and we want everyone to know we spent months and months working on this project and feel that we're at the right solution.
Great, thank you. And you already opened it up. So commissioners, any questions for the applicants? See a lot of shaking heads. Everything clear in this proposal? All right. No questions at this time. Thank you for your time. Oh, George, did you have one?
Just to make a statement that I
Well,
think this
you can make
iteration of the plan.
you can make statements during deliberation. So this is just for questions. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Are there any public comments? So please use the hand raise button if you're joining us by computer, and dial *9 if you're joining by phone.
We have one right now, but I imagine that number will go up. So I don't know your name, but you're under here as WBB. So WBB, you're welcome to unmute yourself. You'll have to hit the button at the bottom of your screen.
Please start with your name and address for the record. You have 2 minutes.
How am I doing? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my name is W. Bart Berger. I currently live at 5280 West Carl in Littleton, Colorado. I am currently living in Littleton, but I've been a Denver resident for my entire life. Back, it seems, when that big mountain west of us was named Rosalie. During the early part of the century, I served as chairman of the Colorado Historical Society and was responsible for the renaming and relocating of what it is now History Colorado. At the same time, I served several terms on the Denver Landmark Preservation Commission in the company of Tom Noel, Barbara Sedler Hornby, Barbara Norgren, Brad Buchanan, Tina Bishop, Ed White, and other amazing people. It was quite an experience. I have reviewed the submission for 1101 Oneida, and I concur with the report of the staff regarding the proposed garage to be located on the property. I concur with regard to form, scale, mass, and other considerations, and I rely on staff to have a comprehensive knowledge of the landmark requirements as well as its limitations. I am naturally familiar with the property, as well as the neighborhood and the district. I have no reservations about the current proposed work to be done. I especially have no heartburn over a third bay for the garage, noting that it is discreetly tucked back from view on the northern side of the structure, and can represent to you that in my experience with those whom I formerly sat around your now virtual table, they would agree as well. I therefore respectfully recommend approval of the submission with such amendments as the submission shall may suggest. Thank you for your time and your service to the community.
Appreciate it. Are there any other comments?
Yes, so James Leduc again. You're welcome to unmute when you're ready.
Thank you. All right, couple things here with this one. Section 4.7, use roof forms that are compatible with historic content. The applicant and the architect both are suggesting that a flat roof should be used in order so you can see the garage behind it. I need to remind them that this roof form needs to be compatible with historic context. And our historic contexts are hip and gable roofs in that area of Montclair. And in order to bring the streetscape back to a period of significance, they should instead consider using some type of hip or gable roof. The biggest concern I have with this application has to do with section 4.18, where you locate the new garage. I think it's interesting to point out that staff was able to provide 2 slides with 4 pictures each of compatible privacy fences within the district. But she has failed to provide even one example of orientating a garage in this historic district where you have an east-facing garage door and a south-facing driveway. The reason is because there are none of those in Montclair. In Montclair, in this area, the orientation of this garage, the garage door should face south along 11th and use and widen the existing curb. The guidelines allow you to widen a curb if it's consistent with the historical context, which it is in this instance. I would encourage the committee to review that one particular part. The orientation of this garage is not consistent, does not reinforce the historic pattern, will dilute the fabric, and is not compatible with the historic content. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And James, could you state your name and address for the record again?
Yeah, did I mess that up? Sorry. James Leduc, 775 Olive Street.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep.
I don't see any other hands raised.
All right. If that's
Not
the end of
true, not true. One just went up. So hold on
All
a
right.
second. Carrie. All right, Carrie, you're up next.
Hi, am I loud enough?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yes.
think I'm unmuted. Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Carrie O'Shea. I'm Vice President of the Historic Montclair Community Association. I live at 1347 Olive Street. And I just wanted to point out that on our design review, we recommended, and we sent this in a written comment, so you have probably read it, that the garage be oriented towards 11th. Jim just mentioned that, but that is the pattern of corner lot garages in Montclair. They face the avenue, and we also recommended that they reduce it to a 2-car and move it back a little further north on the lot. One reason for that is because the neighbor to the immediate west on 11th, there are 2 houses there to the immediate west. They face 11th Avenue. Their front yards, their front doors face 11th. And so we're concerned that the length of this garage, the way they're proposing to orient it, comes very far forward past the facade of the house right next door, and it, along their front yard. Now, Brittany did say that though that house and the house next to it are not in the district. That's true, but they are there still. And we were contacted by the owners of the home to the immediate west there on 11th with that concern that this garage will intrude far forward past their front facade and along their front yard. So that's another reason we suggested moving the garage back and also making it a 2-car tandem, something just a little smaller. That's the pattern of garages in Montclair, are either 1 or 2-car garages that face the avenue. And Jim is correct about the roof also. We had just recommended that the roof reflect the main structure, make it hipped. There are no flat roof garages in Montclair other than 2 on the outskirts of the district, and they were both built in the 1950s. So garages in Montclair are not flat.
Thank you for your time. Any other public comments?
Yep, we have one more that raised their hand. Tony Ann. You're welcome to unmute when you're ready.
Tony Ann Cooper, 740 Olive Street. two things essentially. With putting the 6-foot fence that is solid, there's not an open space, which is part of the district as far as the front yard and that type of thing. A lot of them are slotted or metal fences. And I understand they have children and they want the privacy, but that's something as far as taking away from the ambiance of the area. The other thing, when LPC did the training for the RNOs in 2021, they stated that the commissioners are responsible to view the property in person and not via aerial or photos. So this way they know the demographics and that type of thing. I think it's very misleading to have pictures and or aerials of this area, which is very different from many other places with that. So that's what I wanted to say. So thank you very much. And I wanted to thank George Dennis for at least taking the time to go across the street where Mrs. Richtofen is buried to spend the 25 minutes to look at the house and the property. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other public comments?
I don't see any other hands raised, but I did want to address Tony Ann's comment that the no, we just got another hand raised. Just wanted to address Tony Ann's comment that the RNO training was that the commissioners are required to go out in person. That is not a requirement. We encourage it, but it's not required. We do require all commissioners to review the application materials provided before the commission meeting. So that's the clarification. Just wanted to get that out there. Alexandra, you have your hand up, so you're next.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Alexandra Urato, and I live at 1123 Oneida, just to the north. I am very relieved that the garage is moving to the south side, hopefully, so thank you. At this point, my only concern is we have 5 large trees along the fence that could be directly compromised by the pool installation. And our arborist has advised us that all trees need 15 feet from the base in order to survive. And I'm just asking if there's any way we could move the pool just an additional 5 to 7 feet from the property line. I'm just really worried if the pool undermines our trees root system by digging too close, then what's our recourse? Who's responsible? It would be devastating to us because we moved to this neighborhood for the trees pretty much. And yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. And Brittany, yeah, you had some recap?
I did have some staff recap. I did visit this property in person prior to writing my staff recommendation for this property. I also used to live over near the Montclair neighborhood, so I am very familiar with the Montclair neighborhood. So that is why I did provide the images of the fencing, just to kind of, as I knew that there was privacy fencing in this neighborhood. Additionally, I did discuss with the applicants of reorienting the garage for the doors to face onto 11th Avenue. However, we did have some concerns based on the commission discussion about maintaining views of the property in the last meeting in relation to just the placement of the fencing, that the garage oriented onto 11th would significantly alter that view, as that was expressed as a concern. Additionally, most of the properties to the north of this home that do front onto Oneida do have garages that face onto Oneida that are connected to the property, which is why we previously did recommend approval of the garage on the north side of the site. So we feel that this garage in this particular context is appropriate because the existing structure is a flat roof garage structure, which is historic and contributing and is relating to that structure. And just the unique circumstances of this particular property makes this garage in this particular location appropriate. So again, every project is reviewed on a case-by-case basis, and we felt for this particular home and property, this was appropriate.
Thanks, Brittany. All right, let's move into deliberation. So, you've seen the staff brief and recommendations based on the guidelines. What was everyone's assessment of that?
Well, I'd like to compliment the applicant and Brittany for really weaving through some of the major concerns of the neighborhood. And I think that they have arrived at a very acceptable and concurrent with the rest of the neighborhood ambiance solution. So I'd be inclined to support it, but that's just me.
Thanks, George.
Madam Chair, this is Julie. I agree with George. I think the applicant, I mean, this was a lot of work for them, and it wasn't that long ago that we saw them here before. So I am really pleased, and I agree with the garage flat roof. I don't have any trouble with it. I think actually a hip roof would kind of look, I think that would be more distracting than what they've got there. So I'm just really pleased with this, and I will support staff's recommendation.
Thanks, Julie. I know I missed the last meeting when this was reviewed. I did watch the video, and so I heard a little bit about the comments that were made, but I agree that I think this is a really good proposal, and I agree with you, Julie, that I think a flat roof is absolutely the way to go in this case. I think a hipped roof would be much more impactful visually, and the historic garage is a flat roof, so there is historic context pointing them in that direction. And I appreciate that this one is a simplified version of kind of what's existing, which is exactly what our guidelines call for, simplifying the design so that it's clear that it's new. So I appreciate that. I actually think the orientation of the garage works because if it were rotated, it would be kind of a larger facade against the street. And so this almost kind of minimizes that a bit and doesn't block as much of the historic garage or house behind. So and I like that they're reusing an existing curb cut. So I didn't have any concerns about added traffic or issues. So I think I'm also in support of the application.
Yeah, I'll follow up, Kelly. First, I would like to compliment Brittany on really outlining the design guidelines in your presentation that fit with all the concerns that were brought up at the first application and how they were addressed here. I think you stated those very clearly, and both the architect and the applicants really stated the reasoning for going through this and talking to the neighbors, which I appreciate, and it was very clear. I agree with all points the prior commissioners have said, and that this does fit in context with the mass form and scale of both the district and this particular property, and that I agree with Kelly that the garage turning to face 11th would have much more of an impact visually on both the streetscape and minimize viewing of the historic house and garage. And I just also wanted to add that I appreciate that the applicant is going to reconstruct the catwalk. We didn't really talk about that because it's not the main point, but appreciate your listening about the importance of that historic character. So I'm in support of this application as presented with the conditions Brittany laid out.
I'd like to jump in. This is Erica. I won't reiterate all the points that have been brought up by the other commissioners, which I agree with. I think the staff report is very thorough, and I really do appreciate Brittany's kind of further analysis of both fencing and placement, et cetera. I'll just add that I initially was a bit skeptical of having the garage in this area because of, I think, an assumption on my part that it would probably be facing 11th. But I think, just as other commissioners have said, the way that this garage faces minimizes its impact on the street and allows views of the historic garage and house in a stronger views of both of those historic character defining features of the house and garage. So for all of that, I support this application. I do appreciate hearing from all of the speakers who gave us their comment. It's important to hear from you. But I think in this regard that this project meets the historic context of this particular property and the district.
Thanks, Erica. It sounds like we're coming to agreement, but I would like to just revisit a couple of things that have been brought up. One is, there were comments about the adjacent homes on 10th there, or sorry, 11th, 10th. 11th. There we go. Thank you. I'm looking at the site plan and I'm like, wait, it's not on here. Yeah, and I do appreciate the public comments that we've received about that. And so I understand the concern. I guess my thought is they really don't have room to push it any further north since the existing garage there is there. So I didn't really see a solution that could come to terms with maintaining the existing garage and having it on, this south side of the lot rather than the north side of the lot. So if anybody else has anything to say on that, I just thought I wanted to acknowledge that we are hearing the comments and it was a very valid concern. But I think that the applicant's done the best job that they can to locate it on the site.
Kelly, I'd also like to just kind of address one comment about the fencing and its impact on the yard. I understand those concerns, but I think, in this case, there's actually quite a bit of yard that's still visible at the corner. And so I don't think that this, privacy fence is removing that open space from the district. And so for that reason, I support the fence as well, along with the staff recommendations of pushing that north fence back so that it's behind the facade of the east side.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Erica. All right. If there aren't any other comments, then I think we're ready for someone to make a motion.
I'll take a shot.
All right.
Madam Chair, I move to conditionally approve application 2022 COA-136 for the detached garage and at 1101 Oneida Street as per Denver Landmark Design Guidelines 2.12, 4.18, 4.19, 5.3, and 5.9. The character defining features for the Montclair Historic District, the presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions. Provide detailed drawings of the pergola and catwalk reconstruction. Set the north fencing back 1 foot from the front facade. All simulated divided lights need to have a spacer bar, and please note all the materials on the plans, not just on the application form.
Thank you, George. Do we have a second?
A second.
Thanks, Erica. Then I will call for the vote. George?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Gary? Gary?
I still have reservations, so I'm going to vote nay.
Okay. Erica? Anne?
Aye.
And Kelly? Aye. All right, so we have 1 nay and 6 ayes. There we go. So the motion passes. And Gary was the Nay. So,
And I'm going to move Graham back to panelist so he will have video and audio capability.
all right. Great. So the motion passes and the project is conditionally approved. So please work with Brittany to get a revised application and submittal in to address those conditions. And we'll move on to the next design review project, which is 2022-COA-131, which is at 3534 Alcott Street.
Great, thanks, Kelly. So here we have the street view of 3534 Alcott Street. This house was constructed in 1900. It's the blue one in the center. It is a contributing structure in the Potter Highlands Historic District. The applicant is requesting to demolish the roof of an existing one-story non-historic addition that was expanded on and approved by the commission in 2018. Okay, so here's the overview site plan. This is just showing the rear addition in dark gray, which is adding approximately 1,119 square feet. At the bottom are some existing photos of the structure, which you can see. Those top three are the front, and then the bottom are the addition and the rear. So here you can see the demolition view. The existing non-contributing one-story addition will have the roof removed. So it's all that mostly red portion at the back. And it's basically being removed to add the second floor addition that will connect to the contributing structure at a connector piece. And that'll remove approximately 17 square feet of the contributing structure's roof. The connector portion of the addition will clearly differentiate the addition from the contributing structures, so it can be easily removed. So here you can see the streetscape view showing how the addition will look from the street in relation to the adjacent structures on either side. The proposed second story addition with the connector will have a visual impact on the existing 1.5 story contributing structure due to the overall height of the second floor addition, which is almost 6 feet taller than the contributing structure. The second floor addition will be easily visible from public vantage points as well, due to the large side yard at the south side of the structure and the abutting 1-story structure to the north. And then here you can just see the proposed floor plan for the second floor addition, as well as that overview again, showing the roof and the second floor, how that will connect to the contributing structure. So here you can see the view from the front facade, showing that new addition again behind. The proposed second floor rear addition is not compatible with the scale of the historic structure and the surrounding context, as it stands almost 6 feet taller than that contributing structure. The second floor addition will be highly visible from public vantage points. So staff just wanted to reiterate that. On the right side here, you can also see the proposed materials. So those are a smooth lap siding, as well as asphalt shingle roofing to match, and fiberglass windows. So here you can see the south side elevation. The roof pitch and eaves do match the style of the contributing structure, though they do not seem to align well with the contributing structure. The second floor addition is proposed to extend past the first floor to cover that first floor patio at the rear, and that would be supported by brick wrap steel columns on either side. So the new addition also utilizes dormers. However, they are not used to keep down the overall height, and they seem unnecessary with the existing roof form and height. The new addition dwarfs the existing contributing structure in terms of height and scale, and the historic structure does not remain visually prominent. And then here is the rear elevation. Again, you can see how the second floor addition will extend out over the first floor patio and will be supported by those brick wrapped columns. So here you can see perspective views of this proposed rear second floor addition. In your package, in the application package, page LM9 in the application had several examples of additions and hip and gable roof forms, as well as exterior space under and upper level. Staff just wanted to know that there were no addresses provided for any of the examples, so they cannot be looked into further. I have included on the left side here the two homes cited on the compatibility demonstration. These did have addresses, so I did look into them a bit. 2834 West 37th Avenue was a project that was approved in 2015. This example, when I looked at the plans, showed that it had an 11-foot connector element between the contributing structure at the front and the two-story rear addition. And then for 2735 West 35th Avenue, that was a project that was approved in 2010 prior to our current design guidelines. So the proposed second floor rear addition is not compatible with the existing structure. Staff has concerns with the overall height and scale of the second floor rear addition. The new addition will again be almost 6 feet taller than the primary structure and does not appear subordinate to the contributing structure. Therefore, staff is recommending denial based on guidelines 3.1, 3.2, 3.8, and 3.10.
Thanks, Crystal. Are there any questions for staff? Nope. All right. Let's go ahead and promote the applicant.
They have a presentation, I believe, right, Crystal? Yep. Okay, so let me pull that up real fast.
Great.
All right, so Samuel, when you want me to advance slides, just let me know and I'll move them for you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. All right, so welcome. Oh, not welcome. Thank you for welcoming me, everyone. My name is Sam Palmer-Dwar. I'm the architect representing 3534 Alcott Street. Again, thank you for your time. We've met twice before with the Highlands United Neighborhood Organization, the HUNI, in both their January and February meetings, and have attempted to address as many comments as we can. Clearly realize there are some outstanding comments yet to correct or yet to find a solution for, and hope to help work through this process right now. So with that said, we are trying to clearly work with the neighborhood fabric of Potter Highlands, realizing that yes, there are some caveats. So I think the first realization is that there are lots of different roof forms and lots of different roof and house scales, both adjacent to as well as in the neighborhood, close and afar in the Potter Highlands. Let's forward the next slide, please. So as you can see, the existing house is a hipped roof with a shallower gable end. We're trying to match that same 10 and 12 roof pitch at the main, as well as a 3 and 12 on the eave portion here. You can go to the next slide, please. So the existing front portion is a 1.5-story building, contributing structure. The rear portion was a more recent addition, a non-contributing structure, at least for the vast majority of it. It has currently a 4 and 12 roof pitch, which you can see in this image we are proposing to remove, as well as a small portion of this rearward facing dormer. So the image on the right, you can kind of see a chimney and wall portion that we're proposing to remove. Total roof portion to be demolished would be about 17 square feet total of the historic structure of the contributing structure. All right, next slide, please. You can see that there's minimal work to the existing main floor. The only work we're proposing to do is to revise the stairs. That's kind of the bold left dotted lines to a more updated life safety code 712 or 711 risers. And I do want to point out, and this is one of the points trying to clarify as well, on the right side here, the dashed line with the 2 columns supporting an overhead condition. Again, we're proposing for the client's wishes and desires to increase the program requires us to build over the top of the existing exterior deck. So I realize that that may be a question that comes up. But other than that, there's minimal to no work on this bottom floor except just patching in and repairing. Let's go to the next slide, please. So the proposal is connecting the existing rear-facing dormer to the new addition on the right side. And this is basically to use the most of the existing stairs that we can without having to add new stairs. Proposing a 5.5 or 5'4" inch separation that visually separates the front and rear portion, knowing that the front portion is a 1.5 story structure and the rear portion is a proposed 2-story structure. That's also something we're trying to work with. You can see here in the dotted lines on the floor plan, sort of a new bedroom 3, new bedroom, the primary, and then the closet. These are proposed dormers to lift up the ceiling. We are currently hitting our bolt plane limits on both sides for the overlay 4 from the historic district as well. So we're kind of coming up against all the bounds, as you can see, and trying to solve this as well. Let's go to the next slide, please. So here's the proposed roof form. The new proposed form is the darker gray. So we're utilizing the same dormer condition, the same shallow eaves and 10 and 12 main pitch of the dormers to increase the head height at portions, as well as to break up the mass of the main roof itself. Yes, Crystal, and I appreciate all the comments from the staff as well. It is a massive structure, so this is my attempt to descale that mass, or to provide some variation to it while also maintaining the existing character. On the north side of the building, there are 2 lower roofs. This is part of the existing roof that we're proposing just to change from a 412 pitch roof that exists currently to match the same 10 and 12 with a 3 and 12 roof each. So that's kind of what the remnants are. It says reframe lower dormer roof portion on that north. So essentially just trying to re-amalgamate this to have the same roof structure throughout. All right, let's go to the next page, please. Thank you. So you can clearly see here the decision was made, and I realized this through the comments, to maintain the same roof form, yet raising the roof. So one of the decisions that was made was to instead of cutting the roof to have a flat roof portion, reducing the overall height of the house and the proposed structure, was to keep that same roof pitch. Now I realize that 6 foot or 5'8" difference does increase the height, but it was intended to match the same roof form. You can see the kind of the opposite end of this. If it were to reduce the overall height, it would not match the roof form. So that was the attempt, at least on this approach. So realizing, hearing the comments, I would be curious to hear a discussion from the staff, whether matching the roof height or kind of lowering the roof, matching the roof pitch versus lowering the roof height, if there was a precedence, or which one should take precedence, one or the other. Let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So you can see from this elevation on the connecting portion, there is a 5.5 foot connector that provides a deep shadow line between the 2 existing structures. This is connection from the existing stairway into the new portion. The other solution would have a new stair, would take up a lot of usable floor space. So the client desired that not to require a second stair. While not directly lined up, the windows are intended to kind of syncopate with the existing windows. So you can see an alternating rhythm both on the north side and the south side. Those are the 2 long facades. So if we can forward 1 slide, maybe 2. Let's go 1 more, please. Thank you. So here's the north facade. You can see the alternating window patterning. Yes, it doesn't directly align except for a couple windows, but we're trying to match and create equal segments between them. Additionally, you can see the dormers kind of descaling this mass, or at least attempting to. Additionally, you can see the overhead condition on the far left bottom area that covers the exterior patio. We're trying to create a pedestrian pathway underneath this that also houses a ceiling fan underneath the soffit, creating a nice outdoor space. I have included some precedent imagery. As Crystal mentioned, they don't have addresses. I do have addresses for them, so I'm not trying to say this is a Kansas or anything, but just want to say that the direct to the south neighbor does have an overhead existing condition with conditioned floor space above it, as well as behind in the alley. There's also another conditioned space above an exterior patio, as well as another recent approved from the COA 2018 and 2019, very similar conditions. So not trying to create new issues here, but just trying to match precedents and show existing precedents. With that said, let's see. We're trying to match the existing revised exterior siding materials. So the new addition that was approved in 2018, 2019 has smooth siding, a fiber cement lap siding. I think it's a 5-inch exposure, 5.25-inch exposure. We're just trying to match that as well as the trim and also matching the paint. The non-contributing structure is the lap siding. The contributing structure is currently a brick structure. We're not trying to match the brick, and I'll be explicit about that. The only brick we're trying to add here as well is the steel wrapped column supporting the overhead condition. So again, we're trying to simplify materials and try to rein in the different and various material types and roof conditions to be one in this case. Additionally, using that rear facing dormer for program use. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is trying to work within the guidelines clearly. But it'd be great to hear the deliberation. We're trying to understand if this program that we're trying to fit in here is going to go forward or with some caveats and with some modifications, or if we really do need to work around with the program and expectations there. So with that said, last but not least, just minimal demolition of the existing contributing structure. Just trying to make use of 2022 and families moving forward here in the neighborhood. So thank you for your time. I appreciate all the comments and deliberation to be had here. Thank you again.
Thanks. Are there any questions for the applicant? No. I just had one question at the rear elevation, so the east elevation. There's that little section. It kind of looks like you've got your brick wrap around the columns, and then it ends at a trim piece, but where you're covering the floor thickness, it looks like it's proposed to be siding. Is that your intent, or is it intended to be a trim, or?
Great question, Kelly. So the intent would be actually to wrap the floor thickness the full way around. So what you're seeing in this image where the brick comes up to the bottom level of subfloor level, it would actually be intended to wrap around. So that just is a visual error in this case.
Okay, gotcha. So the brick wraps and you've got some form of lintel holding that up. Okay.
Kelly, I had a quick question too. We talked, or I heard, applicant talk about balance and bulk plane and all of the different edges here. I was just curious about the sort of perceived height of the attic in the addition, where you've got a level 2 subfloor at about 110 and your top of dormers, 12 feet or so above that, but then another 4 feet of space overhead. Is that just filling out the roof shape, as a continuity piece, or is that a part of the design, that extra height? And that does a lot to bulk it up, but I was curious to hear about that.
Totally agree. And thank you, Graham, for the comment here. So ultimately, this is just trying to match the roof form itself, trying to match the 10 and 12 roof pitch to the peak, to the ridge. Again, the alternative, and we had discussed it, my clients and I, was to cut that roof down to a flat roof portion on the overall height. So yes, bring it down 4 feet-ish, but then it kind of turns the existing roof pitch to a new roof pitch. So it's kind of balancing the two decisions. Clearly, this is the way we went for now.
Understood. Thanks for clarifying.
And one other question pertaining to the, bulk plane. I'm assuming that's why you have the new addition proposed to be offset from the center of the existing roof, because otherwise it'd be intruding in the bulk plane. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Kelly. That is correct. I don't know the story of the previous landmark approval process or zoning. It does appear that one portion is compliant, as in it protrudes into the bulk plane. So how that was granted, I don't know the history of, but I'm just trying to match the existing and current bulk plane moving forward. So that's the short answer for that.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions for the applicant? Nope. All right, thanks for your time. Are there any public comments on this project? Please use the hand raise button at this time.
I don't see any hands raised.
And Jen, is anyone on the phone, or is
There's
everyone?
yeah, there's
Okay.
one person on the phone still.
So if you have a comment, you can dial *9 if you're joining us by phone. Great.
No comment, no hands raised, phone or
All right.
otherwise.
And Crystal, is there any recap on this?
No, I think that's it.
All right, then let's move into deliberation. So commissioners, we've heard from the applicant. We've seen an assessment of how this compares to the design guidelines. Did everyone agree with the staff assessment, or what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree with the staff assessment in the sense that the addition is just too large. Plus the cantilevering, I guess as you call it, in the back over the patio just makes it look very disjointed, and kind of, let's stuff this in here because we can, is probably a proper term for it. But it's the 1.5 is a charmer by itself, and this is going to totally overshadow I don't even think you'll see it when you go by. It'll just be this really large thing there. I would tend to support Crystal's recommendation for denial.
Thanks, George. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Anne.
Well, first of all, I want to compliment the applicant, because I think the applicant did a lot of really thorough thinking through of this design. I'm not sure that the priorities are all in the right place, but I really appreciate his explanation for why he made all of these decisions. But I want to follow up on actually what Graham had asked, because that was sort of what I was thinking too, which is that the original house actually had habitable space on the second level. And I think that if the applicant, first of all, I agree with the staff report that this is too massive for the site, but I also think that with the ingenuity that the applicant has shown with the roof forms, forgetting the roof forms as being the driver for this thing, that there is a second level to be had that would be subordinate, that could be subordinate to the original cottage. And I really, like I said, I think the applicants really caught the flavor of the cottage in a terrific way, but it just needs to be scaled down. And I also think that the applicant sort of inherited a little bit of a problem, because the non-contributing addition is really big. So anything you put on top of the non-additional, that's already a really kind of tough thing to work with, because it's already bigger really than the footprint of the house itself. So again, I think the applicant is totally going in the right direction, has the right elements, but the priorities haven't been organized to make it subordinate to the a cottage. So I agree ultimately with the staff report.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anne.
Kelly, I'll jump in and say the same thing. I agree with Anne. I think that a lot of the details picked up are good ones. It felt like that, sort of story and a half look with the dormers could really truly be a story and a half if that plate drops, from way up 10, 12 feet, which is a generous ceiling, down to a true kind of half wall, or, something like that. I was just going to add the comment without saying things that have already been said. I think the context of the block also, that big addition back, but the fact that you've got, what's great open space to the south, and then kind of a small terrace to the north, and an even smaller, probably non-contributing sort of garden level mid-century thing. And so it just steps down, believe it or not, from this nice little cottage, which would only, I think, accentuate the size and height of the addition, you know, in the context of the block. It's a familiar block, so I used to live a couple blocks away. So, you know, it is kind of a small cozy thing, but I do agree, you know, with Anne that I feel like it can be tweaked and studied, you know, with a lot of what's been done, but pulling that a little bit closer. So I ultimately, though, agree with Crystal's report at this point in her analysis as it stands.
I agree with both you and Anne, Graham, but I won't try and rehash or repeat what you said, but Anne, you had a good point that, you know, there's already an addition off the back that they're using to build up above. So I don't see this as adding or, you know, adding anything else to take away from the backyard. So we still have that open space back there. And this is a pretty deep lot. So they have a generous amount of space between this addition and the garage. So I think that makes the size of this seem a little bit more appropriate for the lot, I guess. But I agree that the height of the roof could be adjusted if they just kind of move that down, Graham, as you were mentioning, to kind of align more with what the original home has, so that the dormers really are kind of tucked up, and the wall starts kind of, there's like a shorter height wall where the roof begins to come up. I think that would work. I even sketched it out on my copy. But yeah, so I agree. And I do also want to commend the applicant, because I get that they were trying to replicate the roof form, and then that created this height. And so it's always a struggle, but yeah, I agree with what's been said there. Julie's got a thumbs up. Erica's nodding yes. Any other, Gary? Yeah.
Well, you know, and I agree with what's been said. And I think what really kind of disturbs me about this, I agree that the design was thoughtful in terms of how to be responsive to the character of the original building. But it's almost like trying to do too much with what was there originally. And I think it's similar to my objections to the last project. It's like taking a carefully designed historic property and trying to fit a modern McMansion perspective into it. And even though, you know, architects can be very creative about how to do it, it's like, is it the right thing to do? And how does it really respect the original architecture? And, you know, for one, the addition is not at all subordinate to the original building. And I think that's primarily what's wrong with this. But I think you have to go back further and to say, you know, if you buy a classic cottage, but now want to make a 4-bedroom building out of it, that's not a practical thing to try. And I think that's really what fundamentally is kind of wrong with some of the additions that we see, is that you take a modest building that is charming in its modesty and was sufficient for living in it for 80 or 100 years, and now we're trying to make a McMansion out of it. And I think that's really what's problematic with some of the addition strategies that we see. Even as well executed as this is, it's just not subordinate. And so I'm going to vote no.
Thanks, Gary. I did have one other thought. We talked a lot about, you know, the height and the roof. I was also thinking that, you know, it might be, as the applicant restudies this design, I'm not sure that I am on board with replicating the flare at the roof eave. It just seems you know, if it's supposed to differentiate as new construction, that maybe we don't need that extra detail, but I just thought I'd throw that out. That's my own friendly comment. I'm not sure if anyone else agreed or disagrees.
This is Erica. I'll just say that that thought had occurred to me too. I don't necessarily feel strongly about it, but it might be something for the applicant to explore. Along those same lines, I guess I would also reference the north elevation where they're trying to replicate the slope of the roof with those portions of the lower addition that they're sitting on top of. And I feel like that adds an unnecessary complexity to that side that I think is distracting and isn't kind of just adds to the lack of subordination of this overall addition to the original. So I would like to see, you know, maybe some further study of that as well.
Great, thanks, Erica. All right, if there's no further discussion, it sounds like we're coming to an agreement. Would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, this is Julie. I can make said motion. I move to deny application number 2022-COA-131 for the large rear addition at 3534 North Alcott Street as per design guidelines 3.1, 3.2, 3.8, 3.10, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. All right, I'll call for the vote. George?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
Kelly? Aye. All right, we have a unanimous vote and the motion passes. So the project is denied at this time. Okay, the next project up for design review is 2022-COA-137, and it's also in Potter Highlands at 2533 West 37th Avenue.
So our next project is for an accessory dwelling unit at 2533 West 37th Avenue in the Potter Highlands Historic District. The primary structure is a contributing structure to the historic district. You can see photographs of it here. It's the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. So it is a one-story wood-clad structure. So that is a little atypical for what we normally see within the Potter Highlands Historic District. So this is an older structure. This lot is also a flag shaped lot. So it is wider along the alley than it is along the primary street. And there is already one accessory structure on this site that is very similar in design to the existing primary structure. But that accessory structure is not historic. So you can just see the lot here in the image on the screen. The new accessory dwelling unit will be placed along the alley behind the existing primary structure and the existing accessory structure, and the gazebo that you see in this aerial image will be relocated on the property. So here's just the site plan of the proposal. As I said, the new ADU will be located behind the existing primary structure and the existing accessory structure, and then you can see that relocated gazebo. Again, this is a irregular shaped flagpole lot, so there is more frontage along the alley than there is along the primary street, but the proposed ADU is basically centered on that what we would call the flag area of the lot. So the ADU is a simple footprint. It is 27 feet 9 inches and by 26 feet, and it is a total height of 23 feet 8 inches. So here's the proposed ADU. It will be clad in fiber cement siding with a smooth finish with a 4-inch reveal. The trim and fascia of this home are wood. It will have detailing to match the historic primary structure with the trim detail around the windows. On the south elevation, that is the interior lot elevation. The garage door that you see on this elevation will be a glass garage door. The commission have approved the use of glass garage doors on interior lots where they do not have visibility from the public right of way. So staff do feel that that's appropriate condition here. Along the alley, the garage doors will be steel, simple roll-up doors. The windows proposed for this are a double hung vinyl clad 1/1 window. The applicant has stated that this was a mistake in the application materials, but as that's what we have currently before us, staff are recommending that those windows be wood, aluminum clad wood, or even fiberglass composite. There are 2 slider windows on this project proposal on the north and east elevation. We are recommending that those slider windows also be a awning or casement operation. The east elevation slider window will not be visible from the public right of way, but the north elevation window along the alley will have additional visibility because it is along the alley. There will be an AC unit on the north side of this accessory dwelling unit. It will not be visible from the public right of way. So that is all appropriate. So generally speaking, we are recommending approval of this structure, even though the proposed ADU is minimally taller than the existing historic structure. We feel that it will have minimal visibility from the public right of way and will not negatively impact the surrounding historic context. And as this zone lot does allow for multiple accessory structures, it is appropriate to have the ADU and the art studio on this lot. We are recommending conditional approval with the condition that the windows be wood, aluminum clad wood, or fiberglass composite, and then the slider operation on the east and north elevation be an awning or casement operation. And I know my staff report only says the east elevation, but again, there is 1 slider window on the north elevation as well.
Great, thanks, Brittany. Any questions for staff? Nope. All right, let's get the applicant promoted.
Sounds good. I don't think the architect is here. Does that sound right? No.
That would be a question for Tanya.
Okay, I think we just got a name of Margie or Margie who was joining us, but I don't see anyone from that with that name on our list unless she's joining my phone, and if she is, please press *9 so we know it's you.
Yeah, I'm the homeowner. And this is Miji. Right, and I also go by Margie Suhuli as an architect.
Got it. Okay, perfect. You're both
Gotcha.
in the same space. Thank you.
All right, yeah, if you could start with your name and address for the record, you have up to 10 minutes. Time is yours.
Thank you. And thank you, commissioners and staff, for accepting our project to review and comment. My full name is Margie Suhuli, and my street address is 1102 Race Street in Denver, 80206. And as you see, it's a new ADU unit placed on a lot in Denver, a Highland lot. The lot is unusually long, some 189 feet property line on the east and west property lines. The ADU is actually, the footprint is actually 27 feet 9 inches deep, and then 36 feet wide rather than the 26 feet that is indicated on the document. but the drawings represent the 36-foot dimension. It's we take our cues from the Victorian cottage. So many of the most of the materials, with the exception of the vinyl windows that were mistakenly called out, are with a traditional clapboard siding, smooth 4-inch exposure, gable roofs with asphalt shingles. I'm repeating your synopsis a little bit, but a wood door and a steel door. And I guess what I really would like to say is that we would like to take the staff comments and eliminate the slider windows and replace them with possibly a double hung window. That would be, and all windows would be the fiberglass Fibrex material. And then also we would definitely respect and had always intended that the windows would be installed in an inset manner. And so I think that's pretty much it. That unless you would like me to talk about the project a little bit more.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, are there any questions for the applicants? Yeah, Anne.
Hi, this is Anne. Can you talk a little bit about the function of the glass garage door?
Yeah, so there's a number of reasons I want to have it that way. One is so that I can actually access the backyard through the garage from the alleyway. And then also just aesthetically, I like the way the glass doors look and operate. So if I'm in the garage, I can have it open and get cross breeze going through there. It's just a preference for me personally.
Great, thanks. Any other questions? Doesn't look like it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, are there any public comments on this project?
Yeah,
Please
we
use.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say use the hand raise button, but it sounds like people have already found it. So great.
We have one person who's raised their hand, Carol. I will allow you to unmute yourself, so you'll see a mute button at the bottom. You're not unmuted yet. I'm wondering if it was an accidental hand raise.
Yeah, Carol Faust, if you would like to make a comment, you can unmute yourself. If not, you can just remove the hand raise. Okay.
I believe Carol, I've met Carol before, and I believe that she is in the Montclair Historic District, so that's why I suspect it might be an accidental hand raise.
Okay. Yeah. Are there any other public comments?
No, sorry.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and move into deliberation. All right, what did everybody think about this pertaining to the design guidelines?
Kelly, oh, Erica, go ahead. No, it's your turn.
Okay, I'll just get us started. I thought the staff report did a good job of summarizing this, and I think, you know, given the depth of this lot and the placement of this ADU, its size and massing, I think that it seems like a good project. It appears to meet all the design guidelines that were referenced, and so I would agree with an addition, a conditional approval with the talking about the windows that Brittany outlined.
Thanks, Erica. Graham, did you have anything to add there?
I was just going to agree. I think, you know, the windows were a good comment, but where this property is in the Potter Highlands too, you get some of those long lots and carriage blocks, and it's a very atypical block pattern. And so I think the extra depth and, you know, history of carriage houses and some of those things reinforce that as well. So I felt like it met the context that way nicely, and agree with the other conditions in the report.
Yeah, thanks. Good comment. I agree with both of you, and I see some nodding heads. Is everyone in agreement with the staff report? Anne?
I just, I guess would like to bring up guideline 4.18 about the orientation of garage doors, which is why I asked the question. I think it's sort of unusual to see a garage door on both sides of the garage. And I know it's a ADU in the back. I think this is actually a very nice project, but I do find that to be somewhat unusual. And I don't know if it necessarily needs guideline 4.18.
And I can, I was say, if Brittany wants to chime in, I can chime in on that too.
You can go ahead, Graham.
I just, I guess, experientially have a garage door into my backyard for the same reasons that the applicant mentioned. In this part of town, the lots are incredibly narrow. So sometimes it's tough to be able to get through, you know, on a 30-foot lot. I know this has kind of a dog leg, but we ended up having to do the same thing just in case you're moving larger things in and out. Kind of creates a fun indoor-outdoor space, which is not anything to do with the guidelines or context, other than to say that there's at least one other that exists in the historic district. So.
And that was going to be my question for you, Brittany, is if we've approved, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I feel like we have seen this happen before, right?
I don't have any addresses off the top of my head, but we have approved both doors and a kind of window garage roll-up door situation where they're not visible from the public right away. I don't think we've ever approved it where there would be visibility, but we don't find that this has visibility. So.
And I think we had one that was set way back and it was slightly visible, but the commission decided that that was acceptable.
Yeah. I guess I'd like to just add too that it seems to me the spirit of design guideline 4.18 is really about placing garage doors on alleys because of that historic orientation, and which this does have. So I think this glass door just adds to that, but it's on the interior and it's not really not meeting 4.18 is what I would argue.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Erica. Any other comments? And if not, would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I can make the motion.
Great.
Roll down to it here. I move to approve application number 2022-COA-137 for the new accessory dwelling unit at 2533 West 37th Avenue per design guidelines 4.6, 4.8, 4.18, 4.19, 5.23, character defining features for the Potter Highlands Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions: that the use of wood, aluminum clad wood, or fiberglass windows, and that the elimination of slider window operation in lieu of a awning or casement operation be incorporated.
Thank you, Graham.
On the condition, sorry, those kind of rolled together.
Thank you, Graham. Do we have a second?
Madam Chair, I will second that.
Thank you, Julie. And yeah, Anne.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment.
Great.
And you are probably about to do the same thing, that Graham, it's conditionally approved.
Oh, yeah. Do you?
Yep, no, I accept. You're right. I read it off the page, but it is got conditions, so I agree.
And Julie, you agree?
I also accept, yes.
I actually had a different friendly amendment. So Brittany, didn't you mention that there's two elevations the slider operation is on? We've only referenced east in the condition, and there was another one on the, was it south?
North to the
North.
alley.
It's
I thought
the
the
north.
Graham's condition did not reference, I thought he didn't reference,
Yeah,
Oh, you
I
did?
didn't hear a directional reference like Erica, so I just assumed that meant
Never mind.
any slider operation.
Great. Sorry, Graham. I misheard.
Sounds good.
All right. If there's no further discussion on the motion, then I will call for the vote. George?
Ma'am.
George, did you want
Yes.
to vote?
Yes, I'll vote aye.
Okay. Aaron?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Kelly? Aye. All right, we have a unanimous vote and the motion passes. So the project is conditionally approved. All right, the next project up for design review today is 2022-COA-138 at 3645 Clay Street. So Brittany.
So staying within the Potter Highlands Historic District, this is also a contributing structure. This lot is also another irregular lot for the district, in which that is a very shallow lot and there is no accessory structure on this property. So the applicant is proposing a 9-panel solar array on the primary roof. Our guidelines do again recommend panel placement on secondary structure. That's not possible here as there is no secondary structure to place this on. Staff are concerned as this project proposal doesn't indicate that all panels will be located on the rear 2/3 of the roof. So as you can see, 5 of the panels are proposed on the front slope of the roof on the south roof slope. That doesn't meet our current design standards and guidelines, so we are recommending conditional approval with a condition that those 5 panels be removed from the project scope. However, as the commission knows, we are updating our design guidelines and in considering more flexibility. So in the future, this project might be compatible with the guidelines, but as the guidelines currently are written, they are not meeting that rear 2/3 requirement.
Thanks, Brittany. Are there any questions for staff? All right, let's get the applicant available.
He should be moved over.
Great. All right, you can unmute yourself when you're ready. Please start with your name and address for the record. You have up to 10 minutes.
Hi there, my name is Philip Davis and my address is 2461 Salisbury Street in Lakewood. I appreciate your time today and welcome me to this, my first meeting here with the commission. The only proposition that I have, as you can see, it meets all other requirements other than the being located on the rear 2/3 of the roof plane. My request is that what be considered is that less than 2 blocks away, there is a house that has north-south facing roof planes on an east-west directional road that has solar panels on both of those planes occupying almost the entirety of the roof. And this house the roof planes are north-south facing, east-west facing on a north-south road. And so it is also stuck between 2 houses that might be able to hide the appearance of the roof. And the reason why we have these panels on the south-facing roof is because placing them on the northern facing significantly reduces the efficiency of the electrical output of each panel, and therefore the production of the entire system as a whole. So that's reason number 2 why we would like to or propose to keep the modules where they are. And then in addition to that, just the last thing that I have is, as you said, the guidelines and recommendations are in the process of being changed right now to be more flexible. And another thing that is flexible is our install date. If there is an approximate timeline of when these guidelines might be changed, we can delay our install date until when those times might those changes might be concluded. At which point we can also reconvene and see if they do meet the updated guidelines. Other than that, that's all I have for you. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? Nope.
Can I answer the question about
yes, please.
timeline? So we are hoping to have a public review draft out this month. And hopefully, if all goes well, we will have a public hearing with LPC in July. So it's imminent, it's coming. So I think that's good news for you, I hope.
Okay, thank you.
But again, the guidelines are in draft form that still don't have public comment and still don't have commissioner feedback and all that. So it may, what we have is rough and will change.
Right, yeah.
Great, thanks, Jen. And then I just had one question for you. And you mentioned that there's a house 2 blocks away that has solar panels on the front of the roof. Do you know the address of that property?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry I left that out. That address is 2626 West 37th Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
And it's the image is visible on Google Maps satellite layout if anybody wants to look it up right now.
Okay, thank you.
I am looking at it right now.
Great. We can talk more about that during our deliberation then. And give Brittany a minute in case she wants to look into it.
Well, and you know how Google sometimes gets a raindrop on its camera?
Oh.
It's right there.
Yeah.
That's intentional.
Yeah. All right. Are there any public comments on this project?
Just waiting for any hands to raise. No hands raised.
Nope. Okay. And yeah, there is definitely a raindrop there. But you can see it in the aerial version that it is on the front. Brittany, did you have a comment on that?
I actually think that person has requested their property be removed from Google Street View images.
Oh.
But I don't see any approvals for solar on that property in our system. I have just been provided with the address right now, but I'm not seeing approval for that.
Okay. We recently approved an ADU, or there was a project there within the last couple months, right? I remember a lot.
There was a tandem house.
Oh yeah.
Which is my project. So yeah.
I think that those panels have been clearly there for a while from what we've seen at the other application on that property. So
I just looked up in the permitting system. There is a electrical permit for solar from 2016, and we were not flagged on that. So that was not done based on guidelines. That was done outside of our review, which is not how it should have been.
Got it. All right. Thank you for looking into that. Okay, let's move into deliberation. So what did everybody think about this? Gary?
I don't know what latitude we have to go against the guidelines in this case, but that said, I would be in favor of allowing panels on that portion of the roof, provided that they are not kind of scattered about and oriented in all different directions. In other words, if there could be like 4 panels that are configured like the 4 panels on the other side of that dormer, given what its street view looks like from the presentation materials, I would find that acceptable. But I don't know just how much latitude we have to make an exception to the guidelines.
I would agree with you there, Gary, and I've often argued in the past when we've reviewed solar panels that they are a removable item, that they're not really altering any of the structure, that they're applied on top of the roofing. And I also agree that if they were arranged more symmetrically, they would be less obvious to the passerby.
Can I jump in real fast
Yeah.
about latitude? So if there are unique circumstances specific to this property that would allow you to, or that would you think would be more sensitive to make changes then to the guidelines, then or make approvals that are unique in the circumstance, then that's fine. But traditionally, the guidelines need to be met if this is not a very unique circumstance.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, George.
Having been a passerby this morning, in the wind and the blowing newspapers and all that, I sat out there. First of all, this house is on a rise, on a Denver roll. Secondly, the panels, the guidelines are very concerned, and rightly so, with the facade of the house, which of course would have these panels be viewed edge on. Now, when I drove up and down there, the first thing that struck me was the leaded glass, the stained glass, I think, on the south side windows, and just the overall, charm of the property. I probably would have missed the panels had they been there, because the other 2 properties are very close, and you're looking at it. If you're looking at the street view, you're looking up to a degree. And so I think this is one of those times when the situation of the panels is not going to negatively impact the ambiance of that particular street view.
Thanks, George. Any other thoughts?
Hi, this is Erica. I'm not quite sure how to begin, I guess, other than, we've consistently kind of gone back and forth with these sorts of projects, debating, yes, reversibility of panels, if they're meeting all the other guidelines of being below the roof ridge, et cetera. I feel like in this particular instance, while I welcome including solar panels, I think, first of all, the way that they're located are probably in response to the chimney. So I don't really know if we could get kind of that symmetrical layout that Gary's looking for. But I also just feel like to approve this one when we've approved other ones very similar denied very similar ones in the past, I just don't think it's consistent. And so while I welcome being able to be more flexible with the inclusion of PV panels, I think with the design guidelines we have now, I don't think I could support anything other than the staff recommendation of conditional approval.
I agree with you, Erica. And, it pains me to say I'm totally open to an update on this guideline, and it sounds like it's coming soon. But unfortunately, I just feel like that's a dangerous precedent to set when we have a approved other, or sorry, denied, like you said, denied other projects that are under very similar circumstances. And I do think this is heavily visible because the adjacent property is shorter and it's next to an alley. So you kind of got this big area of shorter structure where this roof being so steeply pitched, you know, you can really see where these are going to be installed. And Gary, I agree that, you know, a simpler panel configuration would not bother me in the slightest, but I still don't think it meets the guidelines as it's written today. So I'm going to support the staff recommendation.
Kelly, I was going to say the same thing. I think the one caveat here, and I appreciate the applicant mentioning it, is that, you know, there's some flexibility, and with Jen's confirmation that this is one of the pieces for public hearing, you know, hopefully that isn't a discouragement to the applicant for being a part of that public process and helping to guide this. I think we all agree and have all felt a little bit caught every once in a while by how the solar guideline is currently, but, you know, for that reason, I agree as well.
I agree as well, Madam Chair. It pains me, but especially with the new revisions to guidelines coming up, I have to support the staff's recommendation.
Thanks, Julie. Okay, so it sounds like, yeah, Gary.
And I'm with the consensus here. I think the thing that made me think that had the panels been, had there been 4 rather than 5, and had they been oriented better, what made it acceptable, you know, was that the gable facade is so attention getting.
Mm-hmm.
It's detail.
Mm-hmm.
A symmetrical arrangement on that side of the roof would be noticeable, but not objectionable. So I'm going to go along with the consensus. I'm just explaining why I thought in this particular case, putting panels on the forward third of a roof would not necessarily be objectionable visually. I agree it does not comply with the guidelines.
Okay, and I see Anne nodding her head as well. So who's going to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I can make the motion.
Thanks, Graham.
Suggested motion for conditionally approved on this one. I'll make sure I get that. I've moved to conditionally approve application number 2022-COA-138 for the solar panels at 3645 Clay Street per design guidelines 2.33 character defining features for the Potter Highlands Historic District. Presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the condition that the panels be located on the rear 2/3 of the roof.
Thanks, Graham.
Second.
Thanks, Erica, for seconding. All right, I'll call for the vote. George?
Nay.
Aaron?
Nay.
Graham?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica? I'm sorry, Erica, what was that?
All right, I don't know what's going on with me today. Aye.
Okay, thanks. Anne?
Aye.
And Kelly? Aye. All right, so we have 8 votes and 2 were opposed, and that was George and Aaron, and the rest were in favor, so the motion passes. And the project is conditionally approved, but just so you know, if you would like to wait and resubmit and see what happens with the design guideline update, you have that option as well. Okay, the next project up for design review is 2022-COA-126 at 85 Bannock Street. Oh, Jen, yeah.
Could we take a short break?
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's been a while. Restroom break? All right, we'll see you back shortly. So we'll go ahead and reconvene with 3645 Clay Street. Jesse.
It should be 85 Bannock Street. There we go.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
this is 85 Bannock Street, constructed in 1890. This is a contributing structure to the Baker Neighborhood Historic District. The house was previously divided up into apartments that were constructed, or these alterations were made around 1960. Previously, there was a stairwell at the side of the house that led down to the current porch that is on the house. Parts of those alterations of course, include that wraparound porch that a portion of those stairs from the second story to the ground level rested on. And this is what the house looks like today. So the applicant is requesting, oh, excuse me. So just to explain a little more about the concrete porch. So it's a concrete pad. And from my understanding, the railing that is on the porch currently is also concrete, but we'll let the applicants confirm that when it's their time to present. The applicant is requesting to remove that non-historic solid railing, and they're wanting to put a turned wood railing in its place that would match the existing footprint of the porch that you see currently on the house. So here again, this is that footprint. There's existing and proposed. They aren't proposing to change that footprint of the concrete porch that wraps the corner. This is a site plan showing that footprint and the measurements for that existing concrete pad. And so the applicant is requesting again to remove that solid railing and put in that turn wood railing. Here's an elevation drawing showing the proposed turn railing with the measurements in place. This railing will follow the existing footprint and wrap the corner and features a kind of decorative turn wood posts or turn wood balusters. Those can be found in your application packet if you would like to look at those more closely. So the 1925 Sanborn map shows that the original porch configuration was a simple quarter width porch at the entrance of the house. Staff is recommending, staff is kind of supportive of the maintaining that existing footprint of the non-historic 1960s porch that wraps the corner, but is recommending that the railing only go around the quarter width location around the entrance to kind of replicate or mimic the original footprint. This isn't high enough off the ground to require railing per building code. So staff did want to make that comment. So we had recommended that the railing just be placed in that 1925 configuration to show what the historic footprint looked like, and are not requiring that or not recommending that the rest of that L-shaped pad be removed. And staff would also like to note that we would be supportive of a more simplified railing and balusters, as we feel that the turned wood posts currently proposed are more than likely going to create a false sense of history. So we felt that simplification of those balusters would help not only outline the original footprint of the porch, which we have clear evidence of based on the Sanborn map, but also show that it is a modern alteration, as we don't know what that historic porch railing would have looked like. So we're asking by a guideline 2.36 that the porch be approved with a railing in the quarter width pattern, and that the railing be simplified.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, Erica, do you have a question?
Yeah, Jesse, could you explain a little bit more your thinking of the following the original quarter width of the porch? Because as I look at the plan of the pad that's there now, it would really, it wouldn't even go to the corner of the pad that's there right now. Is that what you're thinking? It basically would just be at one stretch. It wouldn't turn the corner. Is that what you're thinking when you say that?
Correct. So it would just go to the corner of the house here. And then this pad that runs along the side of the house would not have a railing. If you look at the Sanborn maps, oops, hold on, let me go to the Sanborn. That porch does go to the edge of the house. So that's where we're proposing that railing go, is just to the side of the house to kind of keep that, or to indicate where that original footprint was. And since this would not have a railing and doesn't require a railing, we felt that it wouldn't be as visible, and it would be fine to maintain that existing footprint, but just allude to the original footprint of the porch by putting the railing or stopping the railing right here at the corner of the house.
So actually having the two sides of it, not just the front.
Yeah, they would maintain the porch pad, but just put the railing in the where the historic footprint was.
Thanks. Any other questions for staff? Nope. All right. Oh, Anne, yeah.
I'm looking in the guidelines and I can't find it, but there is somewhere in the guidelines that talk about properties being as is, and I don't know where that is.
I think it's when a property gets designated that it's not required to retroactively do any work in order to be contributing to a historic district or be designated in general, that it's designated as is. Is that what you were thinking about?
That is what I'm thinking of, and I'm wondering how the, I guess I'd ask Jessie how she feels about the as-is quality of this L-shaped porch.
So because they aren't removing the pad, they aren't recommending removing that L-shaped pad. They're just recommending adding a new railing. Staff felt that it was fine that the pad remained in place. We can't make them remove that pad, but we felt that by changing the location of the railing to indicate the historic footprint of that porch, that it would be more true to the history of the house. And it wouldn't, like, they're removing the railing, which would be the change. And that's where staff can, or the commission can make a recommendation for how that railing is put back. And our recommendation is to put it back so that it's true to the historic footprint of the porch.
Gary?
So just so I understand what's being recommended, the section of the railing facing the street would go from the steps to the corner of the building, and then it would return to the corner of the building?
Correct. They could also
so that it would separate the landing by the door from the rest of the porch around the corner.
Correct. Well, it could have like an opening there. Staff had discussed that as well, so that you could access the L-shaped pad on the other side.
Okay, thank you.
And Anne, did that answer your question as well?
I'm not sure, because to me it's going to look really silly, and so that's where the as-is portion of this comes in. And maybe
Yeah.
I'll wait till we're in deliberation.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Thanks. All right. So let's get the applicant promoted so we can hear from them. All right, you can unmute yourself when you're ready. Start with your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 10 minutes. Time is yours.
Hi, I'm double hearing myself. I'll try and work through this. Okay, so my name is Alicia Garbata, and I live at 85 Bannock Street. So we thank you so much for hearing this request. I appreciate the time. We believe that there is such a beautiful connection to the past by improving this front porch railing. Today, it is just bricks, double bricks, and it was added later, just as Jesse was saying. One thing that we wanted to do to provide consistency throughout the Baker neighborhood is to keep that integrity of the wooden rail. Whether it's turned, we thought that would be a beautiful connection, but again, we hear the need for having a distinction between past and future. But we really would love to maintain the porch as is on the cement pad. Part of it is we don't want to take away the cement pad. I know that's not what y'all were recommending. However, and I wanted to ensure that if we wanted to make a more beautiful porch and took away that cement pad, then part of taking it away might disrupt the foundation of the house. Since it's a north facing and snow and water and, you know, old houses, we just need to keep them standing upright. And so we would love to maintain the use of the concrete pad as it is today, and just be able to increase the aesthetic, and, you know, threading within the patchwork of Baker and elevate the neighborhood and continue to elevate the neighborhood. And so we'd love to keep and maintain the size of the porch and provide consistency across the neighborhood and increase the value of how we see the old houses, instead of maintaining the 1960s detrimental effects to some of the neighborhood. So I would love to hear your thoughts, and, you know, our recommendation as homeowners is to be able to keep that cement pad and the railing. And as Jesse mentioned, we don't have to go to permit since it's below the 12 inches, the cement pad. So it's a purely aesthetic in nature to build the beauty of our house.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? No? All right. And Alicia, I hope I pronounced your name right. Sorry if I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Okay, great. So I just want to clarify that on the sheet in your application that says products we are using, so you did provide an alternate option for the balusters for our review, but your preference is the one that's labeled baluster traditional. Is that correct?
Yeah, we added the second option when we heard back from staff, and we thought it would be good to pull it all into the application. So it'd be just one view for you guys.
Great, thank you.
I do have a question.
All right.
How are you thinking of attaching a wooden railing with balusters to a concrete porch?
So there are metal braces that attach balusters, and you can use a cement screw, and then additionally add wooden facade on the very bottom to hide those.
So it would attach on the outside edge of the concrete pad and then have a covering attached? Is that? Or is the
I don't know if outside,
or is the concrete sleeve?
Yeah, we could get
drilled?
recommendation.
I'm just
from you all.
wondering, I'm just trying to picture the attachment without causing integrity problems to the concrete pad.
To the concrete.
It's not a determination of decision. I was just trying to picture the aesthetic in my mind, but thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time. Are there any public comments on this project? Please use the hand raise button.
Indeed, we have one person. Hold on a second. Let me reset my timer. Stuart, you are welcome to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me? Great, thanks. This is Stuart Hayden. I'm at 2525 Grape Street. And I guess I just have a question. If this railing isn't required by code, is it even necessary to have a permit to construct it? And if not, then how is it in the purview of the LPC? Thanks.
Thanks, Stuart. And oh, you did give your address. Never mind. Great. So Jen, do you want to handle that or?
Yeah, absolutely. It would require a zoning permit. So it says if a building permit's not required, or it's not required for building code, but you would need a permit to do this.
Great. Any other comments? Nope. Okay. Then let's go ahead and move into deliberation. So I guess we have a lot to discuss about the proposed railing and then the staff recommendation. So Anne, I know you had some thoughts, but you wanted to save it for deliberation. Would you like to kick it off?
I think so. I understand because I'm looking at guideline 2.36, which is reconstruct a porch or stoop based on historic documents. But in this particular case, going back to the as is clause that I was discussing earlier, it just seems like it's going to make the house look silly to have a railing that comes and returns, and then the rest of it is sort of, for inexplicable reasons, just a concrete slab. And so I guess that just doesn't seem like a respectful thing to do to the house, to on a technicality, have this portion of it with a railing around it. But I'm hoping somebody else is more articulate than me.
I'm right there with you, Anne, and thinking it would look silly and unfinished. And it looks like it only almost be one panel of fencing or railing if you left it open around the corner. And then I was reading the design guidelines, and I almost think, here's my thinking, is if you still go with 2.36, item D, design a replacement porch or stoop to be appropriate to the architectural style and relate to the overall scale of the primary structure, I feel you could apply that to this railing replacement, because there is an as-is condition. It would still be in scale and of the style of both the house and the district, that I feel that item D of the design guideline could apply to this railing. But I think what you said, I completely agree with as well, Anne.
Yeah, Erica.
I guess I'd just like to jump in and say that I'm not sure what other design guideline would apply, but in some ways, 2.36, we're not even really looking, we're not looking at a replacement porch. We're just looking at kind of working with what is there and replacing, a particular portion of that. And so the purpose of this design guideline, I think, is to ensure that, there isn't a false sense of history being created by putting on a porch where there wasn't one, or designing a porch that isn't in keeping with what had been there historically. But what we're really talking about is just kind of dealing with a change in condition to what exists already. And so I think the staff recommendation of plain balusters works well with that. I don't see the need or advantage of requiring it to follow what had been the original porch footprint.
Yeah, I agree with you, Erica. And I would just add that, yeah, it's not necessarily about creating a porch where there isn't one. There's an existing railing. I don't know that you could call it a railing, knee wall. And so that's not compatible with the original architecture. So this is proposing something that's more compatible. And 2.36 C also, states that if there's not documentation, looking at comparable features on similar structures in the surrounding historic context, which is what they did. And they provided us with examples in their application of historic context that they were using to kind of create this railing design. So yeah, I'm comfortable with what was proposed, and I'm open to that plain baluster option to just differentiate it more as new construction.
Me too.
All right, I see some nodding heads. Sounds like most of us were in agreement about the layout of the railing already. So if there's no further comments, does someone want to try a motion?
I can try a motion, but do we all agree that we want to leave in the condition that the railing be simplified?
I would want that.
Okay.
I would be
Madam Chair,
supportive.
I move to conditionally approve application 2022-COA-126 for the porch railing at 85 Bannock Street as per design guideline 2.36, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following condition: that the railing be simplified.
Thank you, Anne. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Gary. I guess before I call for the vote, I have a quick question on this. Do we need to rephrase instead of it being simplified, since they provided an option with the called out as a plain baluster? Would it be more clear if we state that that is what's required? I know sometimes simplification is kind of a broad statement. Okay, so I'll make a friendly amendment.
Actually, I would suggest that if you do say a specific baluster, say or similar simplified version or something like that, just so that if they don't buy that one, they're not stuck.
Okay, I'll make a friendly amendment that the condition be rephrased to say that the railing be simplified by using the plain baluster option listed in the application, or something similar. Would you accept that, Anne? You're on mute.
Was it seconded?
Oh,
yes, okay.
Yeah.
I accept your amendment. I accept your friendly amendment.
Okay, thanks.
So do I.
Okay, thank you, Gary. All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Jen, did that meet what you were thinking? Okay, great. Then I'll call for the vote. George.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica. Anne.
Aye.
Kelly. Aye. All right, so unanimous vote and the motion passes. So project is conditionally approved. Our next project is 2022-COA-140 at 2357 Grove Street.
Okay, good afternoon. So project for review is the construction of a detached garage in the rear yard on this corner lot. So I have there the blue arrow is to help you see where it is that the proposed garage will be located. So the historic residence at 2357 Grove is constructed of brick and features a gambrel roof. Additions have been added to the side and rear. It's located on a large corner lot at the southwest corner of Grove Street and West 24th Avenue. Residence faces onto Grove Street, and the proposed garage will be located in the rear yard facing West 24th Avenue. So here you see the proposed location of the garage. So the garage is to be located on the existing alley, but it's proposed to be accessed via a new curb cut from West 24th Ave. So the existing historic alley is approximately 10 feet wide. The applicant is proposing to remove the tree that is shown here As you can see, there's also a power line and an electrical box. Though, sorry, this image, I realize it has like totally ghost wonkiness from Google Earth. Sorry about that. But you can see that there is a pole and electrical box here. They appear that they would also be impacted by the project, but they're not shown on the plans, and no information have been provided on these. Obviously, that's outside our purview, but just to mention other issues that look like they would need to be resolved for this project. So here is the site plan showing existing residents, the additions, and then the proposed garage to the rear with the proposed curb cut. So the garage is going to be approximately 22 feet by 19.5 feet. The curb cut will be 14 feet 9 inches. Garage will be set back approximately 5 feet from the sidewalk, and will have no setback from the alley. Those setbacks comply with the zoning for this property. In addition to zoning and building permits, the project will also require review by forestry and transportation. The project proposes to remove a tree from the tree lawn, and this must be permitted through the city forester's office. Transportation review and approval is needed when changing the location of any driveways that connect to public streets or proposing improvements such as the changing of a curb cut within the right-of-way. It's unclear if these agencies would allow this curb cut as proposed. Staff has asked the applicant to provide any information on discussions with forestry or transportation, but nothing has been provided at this time. So, kind of what the opinions of these other agencies of the project would be is not known. So here are the plans for the proposed garage. So the garage will have a flat roof, stucco cladding, a single aluminum clad wood window, and steel pedestrian door, and a steel overhead garage door. The design is very simple and is subordinate in size and scale to the primary residence. The proposed garage will be clad in stucco. This will contrast with the primary residence, which is brick, with a rear addition clad in wood. While stucco is generally allowed for additions and accessory structures in historic districts and is something we see a lot, this garage will be much more visible than most of those. So due to its placement facing the street on a corner lot, it will have high visibility. As such, staff finds that cladding that matches the primary residence would be more compatible and better meet guideline 4.19.c, which is use materials that are of a similar color, texture, and scale to materials of the primary structure and the surrounding historic context. So here you can see kind of the street context for the garage that's proposed. So on the streetscape here, the new garage location is on the right. You can then also see in the aerial view the marker there where 2357 Grove is located. So landmark guideline 4.18.e states, avoid making new curb cuts for driveways or widening existing curb cuts when that is not part of the historic pattern along the block or consistent with the character defining features of the district. So curb cuts are not characteristic of the Whittier Coalfield Historic District based on the district's character defining features document. Though some curb cuts are found in the district, they're described as being uncommon in the character defining features document. The application does reference one other curb cut located in the district. It is located directly across the street to the rear of 2401 Grove Street. So it is the garage there that you see on the left side of the photo there on the screen. So Sanborn maps show that this garage was not original to the residence, but was added to the property sometime before 1925. So this curb cut across the street does appear to have been added during the period of significance of the district. But no other curb cut examples were included in the application. This is the only one that was referenced. Looking at the block on which 2357 Grove is located, there that you see on the screen, and there does appear to be one other existing curb cut on the block. That's at the southwestern corner of the block. Though this curb cut appears to have been added after the period of significance, this property is a non-contributing mid-20th century property. Staff does not find that the application as submitted clearly demonstrates that adding a curb cut is the only option for the garage at this location, or that a curb cut would be compatible with the historic district. Staff has suggested additional information in order to support the request for a curb cut. This would include an analysis of the alley width and turning radius required for parking to demonstrate that a garage access via the alley would not be possible. No information has been provided on whether or not there are other placement options for the garage that were explored. There are other garages located on the alley. As you can see, that is the predominant pattern on the block, is to have alley garages. And it appears that possibly with more of a setback from the alley, that accessing the garage from the alley might be possible. If there's unique circumstances that make that impossible in this lot, that should be submitted just to know what are the circumstances that make it impossible to have a garage located via the alley, and what options have been explored. The character defining features for the district state that, as I said, curb cuts are uncommon. To make a case for a curb cut in this location, staff finds I really need more of a study of existing curb cuts in the district and whether those curb cuts are historic in order to make a case for a curb cut being appropriate here. The application only references one other curb cut, which is located across the street. This curb cut was added during the period of significance, but it's unknown whether there are any other curb cuts in the district that were added within the period of significance. So having that information could help to make a case for a curb cut being compatible. And on this aerial view here, that blue circle is showing that's to show the location of that curb cut that's across the street as compared to then where the location of the proposed curb cut is. Then finally, staff also has some concerns with the proposed setback of the garage. The application does not indicate how the setback of the garage would compare with the setback of the adjacent primary structures that face 24th Avenue. So you can see those on the top image there. So that's kind of the alley in question, and then the adjacent properties. And then you see them there on the lower image as well. So based on the plan submitted, it appears the new garage would roughly align with the north side of the primary structure at 2357 Grove. And that this, it's just quick sketches here on this image on the bottom, but I just wanted to have something that you could see for reference. So that top line is showing kind of where the line is of that existing property. And then you can see the bottom blue line is showing that kind of setback of those other primary structures that faced West 24th Avenue. So if the garage does align with the north, kind of roughly align with the north side of 2357 Grove, that would place it forward of the adjacent primary structures on West 24th Avenue. And landmark guideline 4.18.d states, on a corner lot, set back a new garage or secondary structure from the side street to minimize impacts on the historic streetscape. Staff does find that placing a garage forward of those adjacent primary structures would negatively impact the streetscape and would visually increase the prominence of the garage. So staff is recommending denial of the application.
Thanks, Abby. Are there any questions for staff?
Yeah, is there an established order that the property owner would have to go through as far as zoning, traffic, Excel, et cetera, before coming to us, or is it just sort of I mean, it sounds like a lot of that could have been done before they even came to us, or are
Yeah,
we first?
there's not really a set order. They can certainly come at the same time. Generally, I think, applicants often will do them both at the same time just to find out before they go through this application, is it even something that, those other departments would consider? But I don't think there's like an established order that has to be followed.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's promote the applicant, or has that already been done? I think, okay,
Yes.
great. So you can go ahead and unmute yourself when you're ready. Please start with your name and address for record, and you have up to 10 minutes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Shahram Lameh. I'm the designer of this project. And one of the challenges that we have with this site is the width of the alley. It's only 10 feet wide, and there's no way for a car to turn, even if we put 5-foot setback. And the reason for the location of that garage is because we only have 15 feet from our garage to the house. And I need to take advantage of the credit for the square footage of that garage, so we can take it at count half the square footage of that garage. Otherwise, the coverage, the lot coverage would exceed the allowable. So that's why the location has to be right on the property line on the alley side. And that's the reason we don't have any setback on that side. And we can't even push the building any further in, because in order to make that turn, we got to connect that garage to the house and then lose all the backyard. So that was the reason for it. And the fact that across the street, there's a precedent for this and it already exists. So we figured this would be the best location for that thing, for that garage. And that was the challenge for us. That's about all I have to say on this.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? So you mentioned that, it's 10 feet wide, 10-foot wide alley, and you'd have to basically push the garage all the way up against the building, the home, in order to turn into it if you were coming from the alley. But what I wasn't understanding is you mentioned that there's like a credit that you had to put the garage along the alley property line in order to not exceed the lot coverage. And I guess I'm not understanding, wouldn't your lot coverage be the same even no matter what's the credit? I wasn't understanding
Yes,
that.
per Denver zoning code, in order to get credit for the garage, you can count the garage as half the square footage in your calculation for the lot coverage, provided that 80% of the structure is used for vehicles, parking, and 15 feet away from the main house.
Oh, okay. That's okay. So it has to be 15 feet from the house in order to, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was not
Sure.
familiar with that. And did you have any thoughts as to what you would do with the power line and Excel power located along that corner? It looks like the curb cut would be in conflict with that.
The power line is not going to interfere with our project, but the tree is right in the middle of it, so we need to move the tree.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Yeah, Anne.
I guess I would ask the applicant whether or not moving the garage all the way south moving it, I'm assuming that north is up, moving it south and moving it east would get you out of the bind of being 50, you'd still be 15 feet away.
Yes. Due to topography of the lot, as you can see on the site plan, there is a big hillside. So we have a huge drop. It's like 4 feet drop. So moving it to the back and more toward the south, it's going to be a very steep driveway going toward the garage, toward the back, and it just makes it impossible to build this thing due to the steep topography. Sorry. And even if you push it to the east and south, you still have to maintain the farthest point of the house to the closest point of the garage. That's how they count it.
Thank you.
So with the grading there, do those grade lines not continue through the alley though?
They do. Yes, there's a steep alley. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Nope. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Are there any public comments on this project? Please use the hand raise button if you do have one.
I don't see any hands raised. No.
All right. Let's see. Any recap, or are we good to move into deliberation, Abby? I'll take that as that we're good to go. All right. So what did everybody think of this garage and how it meets our guidelines? Or doesn't?
Kelly, I'll jump in. Today's been like the tour of neighborhoods I've lived in, but this is also very familiar, being just a few blocks from home. And it is ironic that I think in the neighborhood, or in the district rather, as Abby mentioned, there really are very few curb cuts, but within this house, there are 3 of them in a block that I can think of, or, close by. So, and, one being a newer, non-contributing, but a couple of them being older, older garages. So that the alley condition, the width of the alley, the house that's just to the west being built, 0 lot line on that alley, are all familiar from walking it. I don't think that changes the challenges that were presented with respect to, the big, large maple tree that would require a city forestry permit, which is not our purview. But I think I tend to agree with staff's report here, in spite of those challenges. I'm curious to hear what other commissioners say, but I did want to share at least that, from a dog walk perspective, everything we've talked about is accurate so far.
Thanks, Graham. Julie, did you have a comment? You unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I did. I am a little bit torn, but truthfully, I think I need to support the staff's recommendation. I think staff has made a really good argument that this does not meet our guidelines. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Julie.
I guess I would just add to that, as staff recommended, that the applicant, could kind of put in writing and kind of sketch out, why all of these things don't work for them. And we heard some of that today, and that was good to know, but I think it's important to have in an application to help support a decision that would go against design guidelines. So for that reason, I would support the denial at this time.
Yeah, Anne.
So I have a question whether this is a case where if a different location, for instance, offsetting the garage 5 feet closer to the house, would be something that we could, should it come through, that we could request a zoning variance. Because I understand the lot coverage issue, but I agree with the staff report, and yet I understand the applicant's dilemma. So
Yes.
Maybe, I don't know, Jen, could you talk about that?
Yeah. So you could recommend a variance to Board of Adjustment, but it does mean that the applicant would have to go to Board of Adjustment. We had a situation recently where Board of Adjustment was not, they didn't believe that non-historic garages, new garages would fall under the historic hardship process. And so we're trying to retrain them on that and make sure that they're up to speed, because according to the zoning administration staff and the zoning administrator, it would definitely qualify. So yes, you guys could make that recommendation and it should be a shoe into the Board of Adjustment, but that is not always the case.
And I think that is a good point. It kind of speaks to the garage, which is directly south of this property and is set back. Understanding that that gets really close to the mid-century addition that's here, but that setback is probably greater than 5 feet, even maybe 8 feet or something like that. But it allows for that turning radius that the applicant discussed. So I think that square footage, lot coverage, rear 35%. There's a lot of things at play here. But I appreciate you mentioning that, because it looks like that was probably done prior to the current regulations next door, but that similar solution is employed right down the alley.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I agree with everything that's been said. I think I'd have to support the staff recommendation at this time, but if they wanted to submit a different application that Erica, as you recommended, kind of outlines the reasons another layout wouldn't be an option, or submit something requesting for an administrative adjustment, and like you had recommended, I'd be supportive of both of those, but at this time I'd in agreement. All right. And for those who haven't spoken up yet, do you kind of agree with the consensus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, Kelly, I think you summed it up perfectly.
Awesome. All right, then let's go ahead and move forward. Who's going to make the motion?
I can make the motion. I move to deny application number 2022-COA-140 for the construction of a new garage and curb cut at 2357 Grove Street, as per design guidelines 4.18, 4.19, and 5.3, character defining features for the Whitter Cofield Historic District, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thanks, Erica. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, George. I will call for the vote. George.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Julie.
Aye.
Gary.
Aye.
Erica.
Aye.
Anne.
Aye.
Kelly. Aye. All right, we have a unanimous vote and the motion passes. Project is denied at this time. So our last project up for design review today is 2022-COA-139 at 2818 Welton.
Oh, we were already there. I'm tired, sorry. So our next project and last project of the day is 2818 Welton Street. This is for new infill construction within the 5 Points Historic Cultural District. This structure was built in 1920. However, it is a non-contributing building to the 5 Points Historic Cultural District. And on November 2nd, 2021, the commission approved the demolition of the existing structure on the site for demolition. So the project proposal for you today is for a 25-foot wide by 74 feet, 3.5 inches long structure that is 40 feet in height. The commission did previously review an infill proposal on this site. However, the property owners have gone with gone in a new direction with a new architectural firm. So there are some differences in the massing that is proposed today and the submittal the commission reviewed back in 2021. Principally, there's no longer a garage on this site. The homeowners will simply be parking their cars on a parking pad, which you can see here in this site plan. That parking pad will be separated from the outdoor patio with a site wall. The dimensions of that site wall is not provided in your application materials, but we will need information on that. And then the property owners who will also be living in this building will access their unit via a pathway on the south side of the site that is separate from the restaurant alley patio that you see on the site plan here. In terms of the project proposal, any new construction within the 5 Points Historic Cultural District, we ask the applicants to compare the project proposal to the 3 closest contributing buildings within the district. You can see the 3 closest contributing buildings here on the upper portion of your screen. The Rossonian is actually not one of the closest contributing buildings. It's another corner contributing building that looks very similar to 2801 Welton Street. However, the Rossonian is the tallest building in the district that is contributing, and it is a 3-story building. So the applicant has provided it for that contextual purposes. But generally speaking, all buildings within the 5 Points Historic District have a 25-foot module. This building is on a 25-foot lot, so it will have that 25-foot module. This building will have 2 entrances, both on the sides. One is for the ground floor tenant, and then the other entrance is for the upper story tenant who will reside in this property, as it will be residential uses. While central entries are common within the 5 Points Historic District, there are a number of contributing buildings in the neighborhood who have side entries. So this is not an atypical condition. This project will have punched openings similar to the contributing buildings within the surrounding context. So here is the west and east elevation. This is just a 40-foot tall building. It will have a 3 stories articulation of a base, middle, top. The front is more traditional in design, while the rear has some balconies and recesses into the wall facade. This is very similar to what was proposed in the initial submittal that the commission did approve for phase 1. So I don't have too many comments on the massing here. The commission did conditionally approve the original submittal with a restudy of the windows. We do feel that these windows that the applicant is proposing today are more similar to what you do see in the surrounding historic context. The floor-to-floor heights for this building are typical, and the applicant has restudied those to provide a taller first floor height than the upper floors and be more contextual to the surrounding historic context as well. Not much happening on the side elevations as this property is built lot line to lot line. There is a new 5-story building that will be built on the south side of this building. So that elevation won't be incredibly visible, but the north elevation will have additional visibility, although potentially it could be developed and that elevation is no longer visible. They are proposing some articulation that is more going to be done in the design detail stages. So we'll look more closely at that articulation in the design detail submittal. The 5 Points design guidelines do require facades not to be blank, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the facades have to be articulated with openings. They just need some kind of detailing to them, and that could also be a public art, which I do believe the applicant is proposing, but we would not need to review that public art. So here's just an isometric of the proposal. Again, a simple 25-foot wide building by 40 feet tall, 3 stories in height, which is typical of the 5 Points Historic Cultural District. This area is zoned CMX 5, so they are going significantly under the allowed zoning, and this is one of the few districts where we do allow infill to be taller than some of the surrounding historic contexts. So generally speaking, we do feel that this meets the design guidelines and is contextual to the 5 Points Historic Cultural District. And then just for comparison, here on the right side of the screen is what the commission previously approved for the phase 1 massing for the site. And here is the revised submittal with a new architect and applicant, same property owner as before. There have been some adjustments to that massing. That's why we're bringing it back to the commission for another phase 1. Again, it's no longer 3 stories when previously it was 4 stories with a penthouse access. The windows, while there will still be 4 window bays on the 2nd and 3rd floor. They're more punched openings that are typical of the 5 Points Historic District. And then the entries have moved to the side with the storefront in the middle of the building face. And then the storefront is articulated with a building cornice of a modern design and a awning. And that's all I have. We are recommending approval.
Great, thanks, Brittany. Any questions for staff? Yeah, Gary.
I'm not sure it's a historic preservation question, and I understand that. I guess I'm wondering about the property to the north. What responsibility does the 3-story building owner have to the property owner to the north by changing conditions such as drifting loads of snow on roofs and so forth? Realize that the property to the north could change and end up being similar to the one that we're looking at. But in the meantime, is there a, what's the liability for changing the structural load on a roof next door? And maybe that's a question that can't be answered in this context. I'm just kind of wondering about it. There's only
I definitely cannot answer that question. This project will require site development plan review where they do look at those kinds of things, but I definitely cannot answer that.
So the commission doesn't incur any liability by saying this project meets the guidelines, even though it might have an adverse effect on a adjacent property.
No. Correct. No liability assumed.
And the SDP process hasn't started yet.
I would have to double check on that. I know the prior submittal was in for SDP, and I don't know if they would consider it as a significant enough revision that they need to restart the whole process. But I am not 100% certain there.
Okay, and maybe the applicant can answer some of these questions. Any other questions for staff? No? All right, well, I see the applicants joined us, so go ahead and start when you're ready, and please give us your names and addresses for the record.
Am I muted?
You're good.
Okay. My name is Todd Harrells, the architect. I am at 1525 Raleigh Street, Suite 320, Denver. I have with me my associate Marcus, same address, Market Vestley. And wanted to first thank Brittany for all of her help in the process. We've worked very sort of diligently to try and reformulate this building in a form that would be acceptable moving forward, as well as adapting to many of the suggestions that came out of the 2 previous meetings we had. One, the first meeting, which we didn't participate in on the original concept, which is on the screen right. And the second one, which was our resubmittal, which was attempting to reformulate that concept into into a building that we thought functioned better for the owner with head heights, et cetera, but it created a taller building still within zoning, but significantly taller and leaner looking than the building that we now have. So with that, we elected to go back to the concept review or the massing review and formulate a new concept, which is the one we have on the screen left. Certainly our hope that we can move this to the phase 2 review with approval, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? And actually, maybe I'll just first say, if you have any update for us on the SDP process or the question Gary had before, let us know. That'd be great.
Yeah, I don't have an update for it. You know, we kind of took a step back from the project to take it back to this concept review. So I really don't know where it is in the SDP process. If it was presented by the original architect, we would certainly attempt to go back in under that original SDP review process and amend it. But that just requires more legwork on our part. We just don't know.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Not seeing any. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments on this project?
Yep, Keith is here. I keep losing my mouth. Sorry about that. All right, Keith, go ahead and unmute yourself when you're ready.
Great, thanks, Jen. Keith Pryor, 2418 Champa Street, representing the Welton 5 Points Cultural District on this project. We did review this and we really feel like this is much more in line with the district and the guidelines, and it ties in with the historic buildings and relates much better than the previous design. There were issues with the windows and the door entry. I think that the new architect has listened to the comments of Landmark, the commission itself, and the direction that it was giving and the concerns that they had with the previous submittal. And I think they came back with a much stronger design, one that is much more in line with the guidelines as stated in the cultural district. So we are definitely in support of this project and are looking forward to seeing it get built and how they detail out the sidewalls, and definitely have some interest there because it will be a bit before those other buildings get built. But that's design phase 2. But the taller, the punched openings, the awnings, the doors to the side, all addressed concerns that we had with the previous submittal, and we do recommend approval of this project. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Keith. Are there any other comments?
That's it.
Okay, then let's go ahead and move into deliberation. Oh, sorry, Brittany, you got some recap?
Just on the SDP side of things. So there's no SDP recorded for this building. The 5-story concept was moved out of the concept stage. So I don't know if this will require submittal to SDP. I don't know if it will require another concept submittal and then move into the SDP, but there will be no amendment to an SDP here as there is no approved SDP amendment for the site. I'd imagine because this is similar, it may just get pushed out of concept fairly quickly, but I don't work for that team, so I don't want to answer those questions.
Great, thanks, Brittany. All right, so let's discuss the phase 1 submittal before us. What did everyone think?
Madam,
Yeah, Gary.
I do think this does meet the guidelines and meets them more consistently than the earlier proposal. So I will support the staff's recommendation.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Julie. It is an improvement, as Keith said. I'm a lot more comfortable with this. I think it fits I think it fits the cultural district and meets the guidelines. So I will be supporting it.
Thanks, Julie.
Yep, I agree.
Also,
I appreciate the adjustments to the windows and the storefront as well. I think that was a comment from last time, so I'm on board.
Yeah, thanks, Graham.
me too.
All right, well, I see nodding heads, so sounds like we're all in agreement that this is made some great progress. Erin, did you have a comment?
Nope, I'm in agreement.
Awesome. You want to make the motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Great.
So I move to approve application number 2022-COA-139 for the Phase 1 mass form and context submittal for the infill project at 2818 Welton Street per design standards and guidelines, character defining features for the 5-point historic cultural district, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thanks, Erin. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Graham. All right. I'll call for the vote. George?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Kelly? Aye. All right, so unanimous vote and the motion passes. So the project is approved and we will see you back for your Phase 2 submission. Okay, so we have a business item on the agenda today, and that is that time of year again, time to elect chair and vice chair. So I thought we normally do this at the beginning of the meetings. I forgot we had this.
We do it at the beginning when there isn't a chair, like a current chair, when there's a like when the previous chair it has served the end of their term and there's no one.
Gotcha. All right. Well, does someone want to make a vote for chair? Yeah, Gary.
I move to abandon any requirements for term limitations and reward those who did such a good job last year and renominate Kelly chair and Julie for vice chair.
Ooh, a double motion.
And I unanimously second that.
Wait, because this is actually a motion to get rid of term limits. We need to not actually do that.
Okay, so we need to
reword. Not an option.
Thank God.
I will accept any alterations and modifications to that motion.
How about you just rephrase it?
Yeah, can you just redo that one?
I move to nominate Kelly for chair and Julie Johnson for vice chair.
And I second.
Thanks, Gary. And thanks, Erin. All right, so I will call for a vote. George?
You want to be chair again?
Do I have a choice?
Aye.
Sure. All right, Erin?
Aye.
Graham?
Aye.
Julie?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
And Kelly? Aye. I know, it feels so odd to vote on yourself, but anyway. All right, so the motion passes and we'll just maintain status quo.
And thank you both. You both do an excellent job and I appreciate all you do.
Yes. Kelly kills it for sure. Yeah.
No, Julie, I don't know. I've watched some of the videos back. I kind of like that they're recorded now and you really just get things going. I like it.
Graham can tell you of the CPI meetings. I was the queen of the quick meetings.
Nice.
They were efficient, that's for sure.
Well,
I'm
great.
Aries.
So, and then we had a discussion item for the future LPC meetings, right, Jen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to chat with you guys about options for resuming in-person meetings, because as you can see, I'm in the office and Brittany's in the office. Hi, Brittany. And we are, anyway, so for equity considerations for public comment and members of the public to be able to participate virtually, we think it's really important to try to do a hybrid situation where commissioners and staff would be in person, but the members of the public and applicants would have the option for either in person or virtual. We could require 100% in person, but I think we would lose a lot of goodwill amongst the community, because people have told us that they really like being able to participate virtually, sit at their desk and do work while they're listening and then jump in when it's time. We could potentially be entirely virtual as well, but that would not last a terribly long time. I think we might be able to eke another year out of it, but I know you guys have had some concerns about that in the past. So I wanted to go over what all of the various things are that we've been testing out and seeing how this might look if we do a hybrid meeting situation. So I've got my notes over on the side. That's what I'm looking over. So commissioners would need to be present for in-person meetings. We would not have, you could not join remotely. So if you're traveling or if you're not feeling well or something, you just are not attending the meeting. We would likely require that staff also attend it in person. Staff would cycle in and out of the room during the meeting because of limitations to this space, basically. And it has to do with camera. We have the giant space. It's just where people are on camera, and also wanting to give people the maximum amount of airflow and stuff like that. So commissioners would need to bring your own device for reviewing drawings, but not to connect for Zoom. We would not have that individual device Zoom like we were doing before. So you could either have your own drawings, you could have a device to bring your own drawings, like a tablet or a laptop or something, but we don't have enough equipment to provide that for you. And largely it's because we had that back in the early stages of the pandemic when we were doing the 5 commissioners in person and then everyone else remote. And they were surfaces and they were discontinued by the city for use. And over the past 2 years, they have died and they're not being re-upped. So we don't really have any anymore. But that said, you guys, it would be a very different format from the last time. And it would be very different from those of you who've attended in person previously. So that giant screen with the projector would not be the Zoom screen. We wouldn't be projecting it like an LCD projector screen. It would actually be like a big computer screen or a big television screen projecting the meeting. And I have some pictures that I can share with you guys. I, of course, forgot to pull them up before I started talking, but I'll do that. We would have you all around a U-shaped table again. There wouldn't be enough space for social distancing, so you'd be 2 per table, just like you were previously. Masks would not be required. They're optional. If you would like to wear a mask, you could absolutely do so, but we can't enforce any requirement for masks. And really the constraint is where the video will show. So we can make the tables as big as possible, but then you'd be off camera and that wouldn't be fair to applicants. There is a webcam in the room that would project the view of the room. Each commissioner's face would not be zoomed in when you're talking. It would be, so the giant TV and the Polycom that we have set up in there is set up for Teams meetings, which is what the city uses, but is not set up for Zoom meetings. So we have to do a plug-in situation. We have to dial in the audio like we did previously. It's much better audio than it was previously, but it means that when you guys speak, your face isn't highlighted, you're not zoomed in, it's just the table. And so people wouldn't be able to really see you speaking other than they would generally be able to see that your mouth's moving. The quality of the video is not the best, to put it mildly. It is mediocre at best. It's rather granular. So there's that. The sound bar has excellent sound range. That's a high quality one. And it is, you can stand in the very back of the room and you could say something to someone at the very front and everyone on the Zoom call would be able to hear you. So that's great. That said, people who are sitting in the back of the room and cough or sneeze or whatever would be heard. So, let's see what else on my notes. So the people in the room and the people joining remotely will be able to see the PowerPoint like we would see that, not right now, but previously during this meeting. So you guys, if you're in the room, would be able to see it. For people at home, they can see it. But then there's a little tiny box of video that shows the room. So we're going to have to, staff is going to have to like go back and forth so that during applicant presentations or during public comment or during deliberations, we're probably going to have to go back and forth between highlighting the room versus highlighting this PowerPoint. So it'll be a little buggy, especially to start while we're trying to figure out how this works. It's basically, we're going to be videographers figuring out how all this works. So let's see, I think that's most of it. So we're considering doing this starting in June, but really the timing is flexible and we can, if the pandemic kicks back up and it's bad, you know, we have another Omicron or something like that, or another very severe variant or something, we can go back and forth. It's just that during the lull, let's plan for potentially going back in person. So those are the things that I'm laying out for you all and wanted to hear your thoughts on all of these things. And I'm going to pull up the pictures so you can see what I'm talking about.
Well, I think all that makes sense, and I am definitely in support of still allowing the community to call in and applicants to call in. Or wait, is this both public comments and applicants can attend virtually, right? Okay, or have the option to. I think that's a great move because I know it is really hard to predict what time, you know, a project's going to come up and people are sitting in there for hours. And pandemic or not, that was never great. And so obviously the ability to get as many comments and address as many public concerns as possible is best. So I like that. It does sound like it's going to be very challenging to do a hybrid and make it, you know, successful so everyone can see it. But if you've got, sounds like you have a solution. So
yeah, and the reason that we've been testing this out is because if we were to do this, we'd like it to be both the Landmark Preservation Commission and the Lower Downtown Design Review Commission. I'm going to talk with them about this on Thursday. But also planning board. We're trying to get all of our CPD commissions so that we're all kind of doing the same thing so that it's not confusing to the public. Not that we have a lot of crossover, but it's still a unified front kind of thing.
I guess I don't understand why the commissioners need to be in person if everybody else is virtual and if the technology isn't there. Because right now we're all on an even playing field with ourselves and all of our applicants, and what's the value of us being in a room together?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just hearing your description of it, Jen, it just sounds like we're kind of losing. We're not really gaining anything per se, other than theoretically, I agree that commissioners should be kind of I don't know quite how to phrase it, but I guess held to a higher standard, or that we're there to interact with the community. But if that interaction is losing quality, then I don't see the gain.
Understood. I was under the impression that you guys wanted to, so that's why. To be honest, but let me show you the images real fast. I pulled them up, and let me just share those. Let me remember how to do this from this desktop. Okay. I don't want to do screen. I want to do, okay. So here is a picture you see that? Yep. Okay. Here's a picture of the room. Heidi is mid-sentence, so sorry, Heidi. I just took a picture. But so here's the picture of the table, and the front of the room is directly behind me taking this picture. So previously we had a table that was up front here. We would do it in the inverse so that the public, because the webcam is basically right behind me in this picture. So that's what the setup would look like. We would have a table over on this side for staff because over here doesn't get appear on the screen. But that's not it. What is this? What is one? Let's see if I have other, I might have a whole bunch of, I have a whole bunch of pictures on my desktop. So let's not, let me share something else. Okay, so here's what the video looks like. I took a picture of the video itself. This is what it will look like from the public. So you can see Heidi. You can see that she's talking, but you can't really see her expression per se. You can see all the people. This is this kind of mirror image. So this is where staff and the attorney would sit for the presentation. This is where the commissioners would sit. And we would have a table for a member of the public if they would like to come up and testify. These are the people. So Andrew and Emily were at home helping out. Emily was an attendee, so we could see what it was like as an attendee. And Andrew, who is staff's planning board, was a panelist. And then we get, this is what it looks like on my desktop, so you can, or on my laptop, so you can see I'm taking a picture of myself here. And so this is what it looks like from as an attendee's point of view from home. So again, resolution's not perfect, but it's not terrible. I'll stop sharing. Yeah. So Anne and Erica feel like, why bother? I get that. What are other thoughts?
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of there too, Jen. I mean, I appreciate the effort to put it together, but I feel like I do agree with Erica that we need to serve the community. That's what we're here to do. But I feel like the community, if they're going to be remote, they're actually probably getting a better sense from us on a Zoom meeting than they would from the arrangement around the tables. I mean, they can see our facial expressions, they can get mad at our faces, and
I don't think I realized that, and I don't like that.
yeah, that's a possibility too. Yeah, I get what you're saying too, but I'm kind of with Anne and Erica on this one, but I'm totally, I mean, I'll do whatever y'all decide, but.
I think we run the risk of, if we're there, but there's an option for the flexibility for folks who aren't sure of sequence or timing, that it does feel like most of the time we might be sitting in an empty room together. And not to say that spending time with y'all isn't a great thing, but I remember, before we were meeting virtually, if there was a contentious designation or if there was a, major neighborhood effort or something, you had a full room, which to me kind of felt like part of the public process. I mean, I think that you're exposed to this, and we've all committed to this time, every couple of weeks, and for folks moving through the system, as frustrating as it may be, or as educational as it may be, or however they describe it, I do think that if we offer that option in this day and age, it does feel like 90% of the public will probably take that, and that being consistent one way or the other, I see that logic too. So I'm with Julie. I'm happy to go either way, but I kind of feel like if we're there, it'd be great if the public was there too, because that open format is at least an even playing field, I think Anne used to describe it, whether that's a virtual playing field or a physical one. But ultimately, I'm happy to be flexible.
So Jen, you'd mentioned that being 100% virtually may be just like another year, and then potentially, then would it be go back to 100% in person or continue virtual option for public attendees?
Yeah, so we we could go 100% in person, but I think that that has a lot of equity considerations.
I agree. I think we've had better attendance, especially from commenting public and even just people dropping in to observe. I think we've gotten much better attendance over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think I'll need to talk with folks about what timeline might be for extending virtual.
Well, it could be in 6 months, the technology's already caught up.
So the technology is there. We would just have to switch over to a Teams meeting.
Okay.
And then it would zoom in and it would like, it does its own, it's really annoying because if someone coughs up on the side, it highlights them and like it makes you seasick. I'm in these meetings all the time and I hate them. And it's only on these Polycoms that the city bought that are make you seasick. But these are only set up for Teams meetings. And so they were like, the technology folks said, switch your Zoom meeting to Teams. Let's get rid of Zoom. And I think Zoom has a lot more accessibility. I think it has a lot more functionality for members of the public, and people are much more familiar with it than Teams, which is a Microsoft product. And apparently it's free and you can get in and use it. But I have a feeling it will be more of a challenge than we would like for equity reasons.
Yeah, I know that Teams, I mean, even if you don't have Teams loaded, you can still attend a Teams meeting very easily, but I think it's that hurdle of the people aren't as familiar with it. And so then, you know, maybe they think, oh, well, I don't have Teams, so I can't attend.
And do you remember when we had WebEx right at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was awful? So hard. And we heard from members of the public that they were having a really hard time getting in. And I think our attendance actually dropped a lot at that point.
And so you mentioned that members of the public have commented positively on being able to attend virtually, and we all feel like we've seen more people. Do you think that that would be the preference of applicants? Because I do remember at the beginning of the pandemic, when there were 5 of us in person and 4 virtual, a lot of people would choose to come in because they thought if there was an option, you know, that they need to show that they're really in it and they're going to attend in person to do it. And so it almost seemed like people felt pressured to attend in person. And so do you think?
I think that could be the case. I mean, I think it'll be mixed, where some people will feel like they can attend virtually because that's what they would prefer. And I think there are people who feel like they have to be there in person in order to get that FaceTime with the commission and have the commission really understand their case. And same thing with general public. Like I have a feeling that if we had an in-person option, a bunch of people for the first item we had today would have been there in person. Well, it's all really hard, I know.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel the same as everyone else who's talked. I mean, I'd love to hang out in a room with you guys again, and I think there can be benefits to, you know, us talking in a room, and you don't have that awkward lag time where people are trying to figure out, are you jumping in? Am I jumping in? You know, like things move a little quicker. So that's kind of a benefit of being in person. But I do agree that, you know, if everybody else is attending virtually, it makes things a little tough. And I know I just led some community meetings for a project, and me and my colleague decided to attend individually in separate rooms so that they could see our faces. Because if we were in a room together, they can't really see us well because the camera's not right. And so I do worry that that's might be frustrating to some people.
Sure. I mean, the other thing to think about is that when people were in person, they were not up in your face anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Gary, did you have something too?
Well, I would just, my comment was going to be, you know, I at one point thought that our discussions were better in person. but I think they've improved considerably because we figured out how to work with Zoom. So it's working now. Do also need to say that, Graham and I have been teaching a course at the university in historic preservation, and you cannot engage students in Zoom. At least we haven't been able to. And since we've gone back to in person, it's been much better. So, I think it's how the chemistry works. And I think we've learned how to make it work much better than it did at first. So I'm hearing all the advantages of continuing to do it in Zoom and some of the disadvantages of trying to go back to a hybrid model. I mean, I think that the two options are 100% Zoom or 100% in person, and that doesn't solve the kind of equity and accessibility issue.
And I'm curious, did you ever talk to, say, applicants who have come to the commission before Zoom, before virtual meetings? And then I'm just wondering if you've heard from the applicants from their side, how they view this.
I've had people mention it to me, but I haven't gone out and asked and polled people about it. I don't know, Brittany, if you have heard from people, same thing.
I mean, I haven't asked specifically. I think generally speaking, my applicants like that they can hop on the meeting, kind of do other things, not have to be. So I feel like the majority of my applicants will continue to attend virtually. I know I've had a lot of requests to just meet with like myself in person, but I think that's more to like work out the designs and all that. I don't think, they have strong like desire to come back in person. But
I guess I was curious if there was, and you wouldn't have a reason to ask this question, I guess, but did they feel like they were getting good comments or that we were being helpful to them, even if we were virtual?
I haven't noticed any kind of like switch where my applicants are like, hey, this wasn't as clear. I think what they really love is being able to rewatch the meetings. Like you rewatch the whole meeting, and that's not something they could do before. So in terms of that, that's like provided a lot of better customer service.
I was going to say that because as someone who has been an applicant too, and I have not been an applicant since we've gone, well, I have, but only for administrative review stuff. So I haven't gone to the commission as an applicant since we've been virtual, but I will say it was really tough, like pre-pandemic, when you don't have a record. And now, I mean, like if I miss a meeting, like I missed, 2 meetings ago, I could rewatch the video, and that was kind of nice. And yeah, so it seems like there are some really big advantages for applicants between not having to spend as much time in the building, like waiting for their project to come up, and then having the ability to look back and hear your comments again, because sometimes when you go back to redesign something, you're like, well, I don't know, they were a little split, and what is it that they said about, the corner, or like.
I get asked way less, when is my application going to be reviewed? Like what time? Like I used to get asked that question all the time when we were in person. I haven't been asked that in probably over 2 years now.
So it makes it easier for you.
I mean, it all depends.
I think a lot of the comments that we've gotten early in the pandemic, we got a lot of comments that they missed having the in-person interaction with the commissioners. They didn't get as much out of the little boxes of people on the screen and stuff like that. But I haven't heard that in a long time. So, and I heard that from you guys too, that you didn't like that. You didn't have that personal interaction. You couldn't read facial expressions as well,
That shock of the pandemic and the isolation, I think that was part of it, to be honest, at least for me.
Well,
It's
Erica,
a
you've
learning curve for sure.
Erica, you've never actually had an in-person meeting. Nice.
Neither is George.
Yep.
I would say that the one thing that from my staff perspective is when we have atypical materials or people have models, and this is not often, it's very hard to present virtually, but in person, you know, like we have a lot of that stuff here in the office, and like you're always welcome to come down and look at it, but how often are you guys heading down here? And when you're all together in the web building, we just show it to you. And you know, like sometimes that really matters, but sometimes it doesn't. So.
Yeah, like when we're looking at the alternative products, like a new roofing product that we've never approved in a historic district, I remember it was always really nice to have that sample and step on it. And
Yes, like the sample you
test it.
jumped on.
Well, I was a little concerned about it.
Well, the thing is that we're in the office, and so we can, you guys could come, you know, schedule office hour type of thing, if come in and take a look at things. So Emily's talking, but we can't hear her because you're on mute. Oh, okay.
Were you talking to me?
Yeah, you were talking, but we couldn't hear you.
I know, I am talking to myself.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I was going to bring up also that parking is double downtown.
Well, it's the meter
applicants
parking.
having to park, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, that's your problem because you reimburse us for parking.
Not meters, you don't get a receipt, so don't park at a meter for.
Well,
reimbursed.
LPC meetings are too long to park at meters, so.
All right, well, since this meeting is going long and I think we're having a circular conversation, I appreciate all of your input, and I will get back to you guys about what this looks like, because I want to run it by people that what the timing is like for continuing virtual, because it's entirely possible that I'll be told no, and now we have decided that's not a choice, and that's not up to me or to you. So.
Right.
But before I close the meeting, can I just ask you, is there an update on replacing Brad's position?
Yes. So I had a meeting with the woman who is the director of boards and commissions today to ask her about something else, and asked her what the timeline would be. We had candidates that we interviewed, and then History, because it's a History Colorado nominated position, History Colorado wanted to interview them. So went through that process, and I submitted the nominations to the mayor's office today, and I was told soon. So that could be as soon as April 19th.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I hope.
And are we getting a Brad happy hour?
Yes, that's the other thing. So so Emily has been working trying to coordinate that, because I'm not a big happy hour party planner anymore, and so we are looking at next Thursday, is that right? But we're trying to nail down
14th.
We're trying to nail down a place. So we will, why don't we send a placeholder email to you guys, an invitation, and then
Next Thursday, we can do it at Graham's office or his window shop. Right, Graham?
We'll be there. It's hands-on window night for the University of Colorado, Denver. So.
Oh, wow. Cool. Where is that, Graham?
We're at like 40th and Steel, basically. It's everything that you would expect a construction yard that houses heavy equipment and 30-yard roll-offs and heavy wood, shop equipment and all of those good things. Kelly, you've been there before. I can't remember if folks have, but anyways, it's where all the window fun happens. We'll definitely be there. Gary and I will that evening. So.
Sorry, we will miss you.
Break a window, you feel better.
No, we try not to do that because we keep the historic glass,
Great. All right. Well, thanks for all the updates.
Absolutely. Thanks for all you do. And this was a faster meeting than I anticipated. So way to go.
All right. I'll close the meeting. It's 4:51.
See y'all.